Hello and welcome to the second round of the 2018 IAME European Series from Mariembourg in Belgium. It is an absolutely fantastic weekend that awaits us here for all of the fantastic classes we have from X30 Mini, Super Shifter, Junior and Senior. We've had all of the qualifying sessions. We now have 33 races ahead of us, and it's been 8 weeks since the first round of the championship at Salbris in France. We had 4 different winners there, of course. In the X30 Minis, it was Alejandro Melendez who got himself up to the top end there. Alejandro Melendez, Pardi of Spain. He's going to be in the field again here this weekend in the X30 Minis, but he's got a lot of work to do from the tail end of the field, but he will work his way forward. In the Junior X30s, it was the man from Dalry in Scotland, Lewis Gilbert, for the KR Sport team, who was so ridiculously strong and fought off the attentions of Marty Boyer last time out. In the Senior X30, it was Mark Kimber who deliberately got himself to the top of the table so that he could spray me with champagne, and he will now go off in the top 10 of his qualifying group from earlier, but there's 70 drivers in Senior X30, so that's going to be a very tall order for him to achieve. And then in the Super Shifters, we had Stendorian Pinamagi walk away with the victory at Salbris 8 weeks ago. He's now going to be in a very tight battle this weekend with the Swiss driver Kevin Luddy, who matched him to the 1,000th of a second in qualifying. Both karts setting a time of 53.787. It really was absolutely spectacular. We've just finished the X30 Senior qualifying groups. All 3 of those groups now completed here at the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway in Belgium, and we've had 3 different drivers in the fastest times of each of their groups. We had Nicolas Pico fastest of all, as the fastest in the second session. The first fastest session time was from Eli Goldstein, the local driver, and he set exactly the same time over the course of the sessions as Joe Turney, who will start third on the grid. The fastest driver in the third group was the Australian Sean Butcher, who will start 4th position overall from the qualifying times, at least, courtesy of his time. Now, each of those groups of drivers are now going to be separated again into different groups, and that of course gives us our ultimate fastest times as we go into the qualifying heats, and those grids will come to me a little later once we have them. But we know the starting order for each of the qualifying heats in the X30 Minis, Super Shifters and Juniors, and now we have the X30 Senior grids as well, so we'll be able to talk you through that in just a moment's time. We're also in this first half an hour going to be getting a few of the drivers from the paddock up here to the commentary box to talk to us about how the weekend is going and how things are going to fare, and I think we already have our first guest about to come up into the commentary box, so in a couple of minutes time we'll go to that. But it's going to be an interesting run because we've got so many different drivers in the field this season. We're going to have a really interesting battle from Mini, Junior, Senior and Super Shifters. It's going to be much closer this weekend than it was in Salbris, not to denigrate the Salbris track at all, but it is a very different style of race circuit. Salbris is very fast, very technical circuit with a lot of big straights, fast-flowing apexes. This is much more twisty, much more complex. It's difficult to get the setup right here, and you need to have a really good ebb and flow rhythm for this particular circuit. It has to be done in a particularly fantastic fashion, and you really need to be on your A game to make it happen. So it's a really complicated circuit to get right. You have to be absolutely alert and attentive to the setup. It's going to be a very difficult one for drivers to get right. And speaking of getting it right, we're now going to talk to one of the drivers who did an absolutely fantastic job last time out at Salbris, who is leading the X30 Junior Championship at the moment. It is the Scotsman Lewis Gilbert. I'll just switch your microphone on there, Lewis. Good to see you. How are things since Salbris?
Yeah, things have been going well so far. We've been doing well in the UK and so far this weekend.
So obviously testing yesterday was very, very hot, very intensive. You had to do an awful lot of work to get the car set up. What's it like here compared to Salbris?
Oh, it's slightly warmer. The tracks, there's various different, there's like tight corners, long straights. I have to have a bit of both a straight line speed and a lot of bottom power.
So over the course of the season, we're obviously going to see a lot of really interesting battles, and you've been locked in a bit of a titanic grudge match at the moment with Marty Boyer, but you've been faster than him so far through qualifying. I mean, how's that going to set you up for the races itself? How do you think that's going to continue?
Yeah, we qualified quite well. All we need to do is qualify in front of the people that we need to race with. That's like Marty Boyer, Luca Lystra. So we've done quite well, so we need to just stay ahead and just think about the win.
And there's a lot of support for you back home in Dalry. It's been a great start to the season, both in the UK Championship and here in Europe as well. You're really on a crest of a wave at the moment. What's really been the turning point over the winter to really boost your confidence levels?
We done a lot of testing and we moved teams to KR Sport. They've really helped us a lot. They've done a lot to get us fast. They've really tried everything just so then we can win, and it's helped, so that's really helped us go faster.
And you've been working really closely as well with your teammates. There's a really nice atmosphere within the KR Sport team. You really seem to be growing as a driver this year.
Yeah, me and Clayton work together well in the UK, and I'm only junior in Europe, so it's quite good, so I can just focus on what I'm doing, trying to do the best I can.
Now, one of the big talking points this weekend, Lewis, and I'm going to be honest with you about this, is going to be the Nassau panel, the new feature on the OTK. And I've noticed already there's a grin that's come on your face the second we've started talking about it. Some teams have done this purely because other teams are doing it. Some are doing it because they're genuinely finding a performance advantage. What's your personal opinion of it?
I think it's just a different style. There's not really much difference between anything, really. It's just the Tony Kart team put it on, now everybody's got it on, so it's just what the things happen. Somebody does something, everybody does that.
Have you actually noticed a change in the balance of the kart at all? Is there anything significant that you have found an improvement with it?
I've not really found anything. It's just the same as the old one, really.
Okay, so over the course of the weekend, we've got an incredible stroke of races. You've got so many heats to go through before we get to the qualifying stages tomorrow. The target obviously has to be to try and maintain your championship advantage, but it is going to be so close this weekend with so many drivers battling away. What's the ultimate goal? Do you think you can win this weekend?
Well, that's really what I want to do, but it's just all about getting points. It's just really about staying clean, not getting those cones, just about being the best you can be.
And obviously the training that you've done here, you were here a week or so ago testing, so you know this circuit like the back of your hand now. Where can you find a really good, where are you really strong on this circuit? Which sector, can you really get a good handle on?
I think I'm really good in the middle sector. In the first and last, I'm the same as I do, but the middle sector, I think I'm quite strong, and that's where I get most of my time, really.
So obviously you're going to be towards the sharp end in the X30 Juniors. Which drivers do you envisage are going to give you your toughest challenge this weekend? Who's really going to be pushing it?
Luca Lystra, Mariembourg, Max Mayer. I think the boys that are normally quite fast. Dylan Van Toff, he's been doing quite well this weekend as well, so it'll be tough.
Okay, well, it looks like a tough weekend ahead of you. Good luck, and we wish you all the best. Lewis Gilbert, good luck with it.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Great. The Junior X30 Championship leader then at this early stage of proceedings then, Lewis Gilbert, a fantastic performance in Salle-Brise 8 weeks ago and looking to do exactly the same thing here at Mariembourg. It will be a tough one, he knows that. There's a lot of drivers in the mix who are going to give him a superior challenge, and he will be trying to fight his way with some incredible talent in that X30 Junior grid. Just to give you an idea, that first heat of the day in the X30 Juniors, we're going to see from the front of the grid Maximus Meyer and Rimo Kadapik, and they're going to be particularly intense right from the word go, particularly with Maximus Meyer, the Spanish-based Englishman. He's been very, very strong here this weekend thus far, and he's given us some really entertaining things to talk about in the qualifying session. They were only really hoping for a top 10, so when they came away as fastest of all, I mean, his dad was nearly having a nosebleed last night. He was so delighted with what they've come up with. They're really surprised. They thought they were going to be lower down than they are, so there is a real buzz within Max Meyer's camp. Rimo Kadapik, the Estonian, was fastest all through most of practice yesterday, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on over the course of the actual races themselves. Josh Rattican, representing the CIK FIA Academy for Great Britain, of course, is going to be a tough one to watch from that second row of the grid, alongside the Belgian Noah Maton. Ollie Pilker and Zach Ripley will be part of the action as well, with the German aces Daniel Gregor and Herodind Nerodini as part of the action as well. It will be interesting to see how those two get on with it, if there's going to be a really interesting battle. We should have a few more drivers coming up for a word with us up here in the commentary box shortly, but if there is any drivers in the paddock who do want to get a little bit of airtime, then please do come up. You'd be more than welcome. In fact, I've just spotted a couple more of the KR Sport drivers who have decided they're going to come up and have a word with us, and they are two of the drivers from the senior brigade. So we've already talked a little bit about the senior about the senior X30 brigade. In a moment or so's time, we'll be able to talk with the senior drivers from that team. They've obviously been very strong over the first part of the season. Let's get our two drivers in, grinning inanely. Let's bring them both in, and we'll have a chat with both of them. There's just about room for three of us at this point, so come on in and let's all squeeze in up here in the commentary box. We've got Joe Turney and Clayton Ravenscroft for the KR Sport team. It's great to have you up here. Obviously, it's been a very busy weekend for you guys so far. I mean, Clayton, how was that booze cruise dash last night to get here on time? That must have been quite frightening for you.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest of things. things because like.
You have to switch the microphone on to be able to be heard, and it needs to be in front of your mouth. I'll just sort of point that out to you. These racing drivers, they're not used to this yet.
Yeah.
But how was it like coming up last night?
Well, it's obviously a bit of a nightmare having an English exam in the morning and then having to come down here with no testing. But we were lucky that we had a full test session this morning. We weren't the quickest, but we were there or thereabouts, and I'm really happy with top 10 overall in quali.
It was a really, really good start to the weekend considering, these guys have been out here since Thursday, pounding laps in, and you come straight in and be top 10. There must be quite a few people wondering what you had for breakfast this morning.
Yeah. Well, it was just hard really, wasn't it? Because like the exams and I was slow the previous weekend. So it was a bit panicky, but we're there, hopefully, and should be quick.
Good stuff. Well, speaking about quick, I should hand the microphone over to your teammate in the KR Sport Brigade, Joe Turney. I mean, it was very tight in your qualifying group, Joe, but let's be fair, setting the exact same lap time to the 1,000th of a second as your rival in there, Eli Goldstein. I'm going to ask you to switch the microphone on because Clayton still didn't do it. Bless you, Clayton. It's all right. I've got one here so we can just about hear you anyway. But Joe, setting the exact same lap time to the 1,000th of a second as Eli Goldstein, who a lot of people are rooting for the win here this weekend. That's not a bad start.
No, it wasn't too bad. On Thursday we were really quick, but then the temperature changed and the track got hotter and we struggled a bit. But if you asked me if I'd be third yesterday, I thought you'd be lying. So we're quite happy with where we are. The team have been working very hard, late nights at the track. So yeah, very good job from the team.
Really exciting battles because you've got about 14 or 15 of you guys who could win the final tomorrow. So where do you find that extra bit of time around this circuit? Because it's very different to Salisbury's.
Yeah, it is quite twisty. Quite a lot of overtaking places. Just trying to, if you can save your tyres a bit through the heats, then it'll help you for the pre-final. And then being fast on the new tyres for the final is also very important. If you can get a gap at the start, it helps. So, just trying to be smooth with the tyres and try and just damage limitation through the heats, really.
Is that why you guys were taking so long to come out of the pits? In the qualifying session? Because we were talking about this last night. There's a 7-minute session and you guys only tend to use about 5 of it, Clayton. Is that you're just kind of waiting around on the tyres?
Yeah, well, it's all about track position, really, because, if you go around on your own, you don't have a tow. So that tow could cost you, a tenth or two, depending on the track. But usually I just go out on my own so that I'm away from all the battling and I can just put in a clean lap.
That's a good point because Clayton does things slightly differently to you, Joe, because Clayton likes to give himself a bit of breathing space. You like to work with another driver or kind of feed in behind another driver to really get your pace. Is there a certain dynamic to being able to make that work for you over the course of a session?
Yeah, I think it's very important to be fast on your own like Clayton because when you find yourself on your own in a heat, leading the race, you need to be able to do the laps by yourself. But just for the purpose of qualifying, I think it's still very important to have a tow. Like Clayton said, you can lose a tenth or two, and chasing the drivers really helps around here. So, yeah.
Well, I think you guys are going to be getting ready for your first senior races. I was going to talk about Nassau panels. We've got a whole weekend to talk about that. So, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Clayton. Good luck for the racing here this weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Great to hear from the KR Sport drivers as they prepare for action here at Mariembourg. One of them, of course, as the reigning and recently crowned IAME Valencia Winter Cup champion back in February. Going to be really interesting to see how they go. A really strong start to their season. Both of those drivers in at KR Sport. They've been working very, very hard to make sure everything works according to plan from their point of view. So great to see the drivers putting in an absolutely fantastic level. And there is a real height of professionalism at this first point of the season from the KR Sport team. And it's great to see Lewis Gilbert doing so well in the juniors, Clayton Ravenscroft and Joe Turney doing well in the seniors. But there are plenty other teams out there who are going to be putting some great drivers up to the big show. So in the seniors, we're going to find out a little bit later on how that's going to go. But the first heat is getting ready for action, and that is Heat A and B. And it's going to be Nicolas Picot and Eli Goldstein heading out onto the circuit as the Orange Army of the Royal Automobile Club of Belgium head to their posts out on the circuit. And they have have been absolutely incredible. Ruthless efficiency all weekend from the Royal Automobile Club of Belgium, and we're fantastic and very appreciative and very honoured guests of the Royal Automobile Club of Belgium here at the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway. We've had absolutely amazing race action here in the past, and it's great to be back once again, just a few miles from the site of where Formula One racing used to take place. Yes, you're probably thinking, hang on, you're not that close to Zolder, you're not that close to Spa. Well, we're not, but there was a famous circuit quite close to here in the town of Chimay that used to hold Formula One racing as far back as 1954. This is my nerdy point of the stream. Apologies to all those of you who don't want to hear it, but tough, I'm going to say it anyway. There were two occasions when Formula One racing took place a stone's throw from this circuit on the street circuit of Chimay, which used to run an event called the Grand Prix de Frontières back in the 1920s and 30s, and it ran all the way up till the early 70s, the last of those events being won by the late great David Purley, who was one of the stalwarts of Formula One racing in the late 60s and early 70s, and he won here in an Ensign and in a Brabham on the street circuit, which does occasionally get reopened for some historic motor racing festivals in the region, so there's a lot of history coming back to this place. And for those of you who have been listening to that and thought, Formula One racing, okay, so who was the last Formula One winner of the Grand Prix de Frontières here in Chimay? Well, that was in 1954, the last time it was run as a Formula One event. After that, it was Formula 2 and Formula 3 racing predominantly, but the last Formula One race that was held in downtown Chimay nearby to here was won by Prince Bira, the Crown Prince of Thailand, back in 1954. That's the nerdy bit over for now. There's going to be plenty more nerditry as the weekend goes on, because there's lots of stats and statistics to take into account, and it's a shame really that I didn't get the opportunity to come and talk to Clayton Ravenscroft and Joe Turney about those Nassau panels, because I have a feeling that would be a really interesting topic of conversation from them. I mean, Lewis has obviously told us he didn't feel like there was any particular benefit from it. Lewis Gilbert, that was, we're talking about there. But we've got another driver making his way up to the commentary box, and I have to say this is a very good choice of driver to come up, because he was fastest in the qualifying session for the X30 Juniors this weekend. So obviously we've talked to the championship leader from the Juniors, but now we need to find our way to talk about the person who's going to be starting on pole position for the X30 Juniors. And after a cracking qualifying session yesterday, which had about 10 drivers bidding for pole position, that ultimately went to young Max Meyer, who is the English driver based out in Spain. So let's have a quick chat then with the pole sitter in X30 Junior for this weekend. It is Max Meyer of the Fusion Motorsport team. Max, great to see you, and you must have been absolutely elated last night when you saw the timesheets and said that nobody was faster. How did that feel?
I was surprised, really. It's the first time in junior here in Mariembourg. It was, for me, I was shocked.
Because basically you guys were looking for top 10 if you could manage it, and there was obviously a lot of time for you to find through practice, but pole position, I mean, your dad was absolutely having kittens last night. It was a very happy night last night.
Yeah, my dad worked so hard this weekend because I love this track. It's been last week been testing, been full out up there. On Friday, yesterday being good quality. It was quite hard, but we get in there. So I hope we get good races today.
Now, the Fusion Motorsport team has been a very interesting one to observe this weekend, because some of your drivers have gone for the Nassau panel, the new one, some of you haven't, and some of you have tested it and gone back to the old system. Now, how do you feel about it as a driver, having been running around in it the last 2 days?
For me, the Nassau panel makes a difference on the front. It feels better on the front. It's like it turns like a bit more smoother. For the others, doesn't suit them because some of them just don't like it because when they turn a little bit, they go straight in.
And it's one of those systems where I've been talking to a few of the drivers. They say it favours the sort of the KZs and OKs, but with X30s, there's a little bit more work to do on it.
Yeah, with the X30, it's different. I bet with a KZ shifter cut, when they have the Nassau panel here, they would be a bit more quicker with the Nassau panel.
I have to say, if we saw the super shifters with the Nassau panels, that really would be something special. I mean, in a straight line, they would be incredible. You've got so many drivers to battle with this weekend. The senior X30 guys, they've just been sent out after a bit of a word there from the race control. But this is going to be a tough weekend because there's a good 15, 16 drivers in that Junior X30 who can win here. You've obviously come out on top in over one lap. How difficult is it going to be to maintain that pace through the weekend?
I think it's going to be difficult in the first 2 laps because it's difficult to brake here to get away. But we'll see how we go.
Well, this is one of those positives of you living in Spain because, of course, you race in the National Spanish Championships, and that's a really tough competition. You've got so many great racing drivers there, so it's almost preparation for this.
Yeah, so like this year is going to be like more like training for next year because next year we will be on top for sure.
Okay, I'm liking that fighting talk. So are we going to get at least one Fusion driver on the podium this weekend? Can we see that?
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to hear from you, Max. Congratulations. Good luck for this weekend. And hopefully we'll be talking about you on the top step of the podium tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Great job. Max Meyer, fastest in the qualifying session from Junior X30, and great to see him on the top of the tree at the moment. But there's a long, long way to go. Let's not underrate it. The first race of the weekend is about to get underway. You can see them there filing up in the holding area. In about 9 minutes' time, that race will get underway. It is the first of the X30 seniors. I'm hoping we'll be able to talk to 1 or 2 more before we get underway with racing. But it's going to be a beautiful day, or as I always say, a beautiful day, because it is absolutely gorgeous. If you look up in the sky, there is not a cloud in it, which is very nice indeed to see, because we had a lot of difficulties with the weather coming into this weekend. On the Thursday night, we had a massive storm shower. It was a very light one in terms of its duration, but in terms of its intensity, it was like a monsoon in about 3 minutes, and very, very tough to figure out how the rain was going to work. You just saw in the previous shot there Eli Goldstein, and alongside him on that front row of the grid, the Frenchman Nicolas Picot. There is an absolute quantum leap between those two in terms of age. Nicolas Picot is in his late teens, early 20s, and Eli Goldstein, I think, is the youngest in the field, 14 years of age, but he knows this circuit so well that he's got himself into a really good position for the races in front of him. This will be a really tough battle, to be fair, in Senior X30, because we've got so many drivers just in this first qualifying heat who are going to be a strong challenge. Just to talk about them briefly, Nicolas Picot and Eli Goldstein will be on that front row of the grid from the Spaniard Ruben Moya and the Dutchman Joey van Splunteren. Then it's Jordan Brown Nutley and Sim Liedmar, the Estonian, from Louis Westover of Great Britain, and Harry Platten, his countryman. And rounding out the top 10 will be the Japanese star Masatora Wada, and then alongside him the homeboy hero from Belgium, Javier Hansheim, and that will be an interesting one with Stephen Planchamp and Sylvester Alexeyevas on that 6th row of the grid. Sebastien Degrand and Noah Rouvers will make it an all-Belgian row 7. Levi Ntukantu, the Finn, who was very strong in practice, didn't quite get it together for qualifying, is there in 15th on the grid for this heat, alongside the Dutchman Rivaldo van der Westerleken. Then it is Jarno Gouvaerts, the Belgian, alongside the Spaniard Carlos Saval-Martin. Milan Petele, the Frenchman, will start alongside Morgan Porter of Great Britain inside the top 20. Then it's going to be Romain Leroux, the Frenchman, alongside Tom Nielsen, the Belgian. And then it is the Mexican racer, Rafael Villagomez, on the 12th row of the grid, alongside the reigning German X30 champion, Jan-Philipp Springhob. Then we have Thanapongpai Sutumnu, who's not had the greatest of weekends thus far, 10th in last year's IAME European Series, and he starts this race down in 25th on the grid. Alongside him is the Spanish charge Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz, and Manel Godofretone and Jack Tomelin will share the 14th row of the grid, and then in there behind will be Max Pilker, alone on the 15th row of the grid, because Fabio Kiltica, despite being listed as being on the grid, is not here, so will not take up the start. There is Eli Goldstein to the right of your picture in the Belgian-coloured overalls, getting himself ready to start a really tough mission here from first on the grid. There's Joey van Splunteren with the yellow and blue helmet, getting himself ready for the action, and just in front of him there with the Ike's Racing Team livery suit, that is Sim Liedmar, the Estonian, as he gets himself ready for action. You can see just in there behind as well, that is the Brit Harry Platten to the left for the BMR BTCC squad, as they're doing a great job. This is the first British Touring Car Championship team to go international on the karting scene, and what the BMR youngsters are doing is absolutely incredible. They are, of course, scouting young talented drivers to become the next Jason Plato or Ashley Sutton, champions plenty in the BMR squad over the last few years in the world of touring car racing back in Great Britain. But here in continental Europe, there's been some absolutely fantastic driving and some absolutely terrific racing as well. We are battling our way for some fantastic driving here this weekend at the Karting de Fania International Raceway. Some terrific racing ahead of us as we've got 22 races today, as we mentioned, for Senior X30, and then the 2 races of those will begin and then continue on with the juniors, the minis and the super shifters, and then we'll go around again for the seniors. So if you've just joined us, hello to you and welcome to the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway from Mariembourg in Belgium. We are live across Telemundi Media, and we're also live on the radio application Spreaker on Downforce UK's live stream. Jake Sanson here in the commentary box, overlooking the start-finish line here at Mariembourg on what promises to be a fantastic day of racing across 22 races today, all the way through to about 8 p.m. local time here to assess who's going to be in contention for the second round of the championship. Our 4 winners from last time out are still here with us. Alejandro Melendez in X30 Minis from Salbris, who won that race. He's in the mix with some time to make up. The junior winner, Lewis Gilbert, who leads the championship by Mariembourg to 4 points. And then the third championship in there, the Senior X30s, who are about to get underway. The championship currently led by Mark Kimber, who missed all of yesterday's practice sessions and as a result has had to work incredibly hard to get up to speed this weekend and is already going to have to take a long time to play catch-up. And then, of course, Stendorian Pirimagi has been dominating the early part of the season in Super Shifters, and that dominance looks like it could continue here this weekend unless the man who matched him for the ultimate fastest pole position time, Kevin Luddy, can outmatch him. So it's going to be an interesting day at the office. 22 races in total today. As you can see, the Senior X30s are getting underway. You can just see Xavier Hansheim, the Belgian, getting himself underway. Representative of Belgium for the CIK FIA Academy, proudly wearing the CIK FIA Academy suit there. And the Belgian with plenty of knowledge of this place. He knows it well. You can see in there a few of the other drivers getting ready. That's Joey van Splunteren sat in kart. Siem Liedmar just facing away from us. And the British star in there as well, Harry Platten for the Team BMR squad. These are 4 racers who could have a really strong first day at the office here because they've all put themselves into a really strong position right from the start. And I have a feeling there's going to be a few drivers who will have a really sensational, successful start to the day. So there's going to be some good overtaking here at Mariembourg. It's a very technical, tricky circuit. Lots of tight, twisting complexes. We've already heard from a few drivers up here in the commentary box. Lewis Gilbert came up and said hello, the championship leader in the X30 Juniors. 2 of the drivers for Chaos Sport in the Senior X30, Joe Turney and Clayton Ravenscroft. And we've heard from the pole position sitter in X30 Junior. That is Maximus Meyer for the Fusion Motorsport team. If there are any other drivers here trackside who are wanting to get their 5 minutes of fame, then please do come up to the commentary box in between races. We will have a natter with you, and you are more than welcome to at any point over the course of the day. Now, you'll notice if you're watching the Telemundi Media live stream, there are a few drivers that are using these new OTK Nassau panels, which basically look a little bit like a hot dog bun in the sense that they are quite high on either side, the right and left, and then there's enough room actually to place an entire arm underneath the number board, but it channels air through. Now, some people are trying to figure out whether it's useful or not. You'll see some teams using it, other teams not. There are a few teams that have been testing it over Thursday and Friday in the testing sessions and have now reverted back to the old system. They just wanted to see what it felt like, and some have felt a real difference with it. Some feel it's good, some feel it's bad, others think it's just plain ugly. I have to say, when I first saw it on Thursday morning, I was a little bit confused as to why people were strapping Volkswagen Beetles to the front of their karts. But anyway, that was just my naive opinion, so don't go with that as the accepted view, because there's plenty of great racing to come from these karts, and as they continue to develop these, you're going to see these a lot more. They've been used on some of the other classes in international karting. This is really the first time on the international scene that they've been used at X30 level. Some people are seeing a benefit. Others are saying, well, the karts are not quite fast enough to really gain the ultimate benefit. But one thing that is of benefit with these karts is if you're racing in a queue. So that's going to be particularly prevalent. So there's a lot of queuing up around this circuit. We are about to go racing for the first time this weekend in the 2018 X30 European IAME Series here in Belgium. The second round of the championship. Salbris was a distant memory. For everyone else, it's time to hit the reset button and go racing for the first heat of the weekend. Qualifying heat AB, and it's those 2 groups that will race together. Nicolas Pico and Eli Goldstein, the 2 fastest drivers this weekend from qualifying, will head us out. And only one of those drivers has ducked below 56 seconds in qualifying itself. That was Nicolas Pico. Eli Goldstein, though, has been the faster driver throughout the weekend because he has gone faster than that in practice. So we wait for the race to begin. It is 11 laps, 15.026 kilometres of this Mariembourg circuit. We get the command and the drivers are sent out. Here's the starting grid then. It's Nicolas Pico and Eli Goldstein on that front row of the starting grid. Second row is Ruben Moya and Joey van Splunteren. Third row is Jordan Brown-Nutley and Siem Liedmar. On the fourth row of the grid, it is Louis Westover and Harry Platten. Fifth row is Masatora Wada and Xavier Hansheim. Sixth row is Stefan Planchamp and Sylvester Alexeyevas. Seventh row is Sebastian Degrand and Noah Ruvers. Eighth row is Levi Lintucanto and Rivaldo van der Westerleken. Jana Guvarts shares the ninth row with Carlos Saval Martin. Milan Petele and Morgan Porter will share the 10th row. Romain Leroux and Tom Nielsen are on the 11th row together with Rafael Villa-Gomez and Jan-Philippe Springob on the 12th row. Thanapong Pangsatumnu and Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz line up on the 13th row of the grid with Manel Godofretorne and Jack Tomelin on row 14, along with Max Pilker in 29th position. So the drivers just getting their 2 formation laps in. They will run around the circuit twice so that they can get a bit of a feel for the circuit. And the mechanics obviously poised to help them around the circuit as any way they can. But it's a really interesting battle ahead of us. And you can see there at the front of the field, the 296 of Nicolas Pico has elected to use the OTK Nassau panel, or the hot dog bun as I'm starting to call it. Others call it the baguette. So it's going to be a really interesting battle from the front of the field. So Pico, Goldstein, Moya, Van Spunteren, Brown-Nutley, Liedmar, Westover, Platten, Wada and Hansheim in the top 10. Then it's Planchamp, Alexeyevas, Degrand, Ruvers, Lintucanto, Van der Westerleken, Guvarts, Saval-Martin, Petele, Porter, Leroux, Nelson, Villa-Gomez, Springob, Sutomno, Hernandez Ruiz, Galofretorne, Tomelin and Pilker. Now, this is going to be a really interesting battle, this first race of the weekend, in the shadow of the podium with the digiboard. All of the spectators here on the main starting line starting to fill up now. There's a good capacity crowd here for this second round of the championship as everybody is starting to get up tempo and the fever is rising as we get ourselves ready for action here in the second round of the championship. Last time out at Soubreeze 8 weeks ago, nobody could beat Mark Kimber. It is now a very different story with Kimber down the order after missing practice yesterday. He's got to fight his way through, and a lot of the other drivers in Senior X30 have got a mission on their hands as well, and a lot of them are just watching this start to see what happens. It's a very tough circuit, this one. I have a feeling that we're going to see most of the melee this weekend in Turn 2 rather than Turn 1, but there are a few places where drivers can come a cropper. Turn 2 in particular, because there's that gravel trap on the outside, one of only 2 parts of the circuit that will catch drivers in incidents in a gravel trap. So Pico and Goldstein, Moya and Van Spunteren, Brown-Nutley and Liedmar, Westover and Platten, Wada and Hansheim. For the rest of the field, it is a very tough mission ahead of us as they come out of those final few corners. 20 corners around this circuit, and ahead of them faces 15.026 kilometres of racing, 11 laps of the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway here in Mariembourg in Belgium, and they will go through the tram lines and make sure the race gets underway cleanly. I think this is going to be a good start. Here we go. Are we going to go racing? Yes, we are. Perfect getaway, and up into the first corner we go straight away. It's a good start from third position. That looks like a cracking getaway for Ruben Moya. The Spaniard's gone through into P2 straight off the bat, and it looks as though we're going to have a really interesting battle through Turn 2. There's contact already, and 2 or 3 carts coming a cropper up in Turn 3. We've got 2 of them off there. Now, one of them is the 217. So that's a cart that's come off there on the runoff area on the far side. Now that is the 217 of Louis Westover. So one of the biggest names has come off the field there. We've also lost the 210 and the 237. So that is a problem there for Thanapong Pangsatumnu, and the 237 in there as well of Rivaldo van der Westerleken. We've got a breakdown on the Turn 3 as well. I'm guessing accident damage from that first incident. So a few drivers out of the race already. Or at least it might just be the one, actually, but we've got a great battle up front as they come through this time by. The leaders are now coming across the start-finish line. It's Nicolas Pico in front of Ruben Moya, but Moya's going for the lead straight away. Moya takes the lead. Fantastic stuff. It's Brown-Nutley who's there in third position. Fourth place, it is Eli Goldstein from Joey van Splunteren. Now up the inside. A good battle there as Eli Goldstein tries to get on the back of Jordan Brown-Nutley. The top 5 winding their way through. Joey van Splunteren in there in 5th position as well. Then back to 6th place. We've got Hansheim, Ruvers, Alexeyevas, Westover, Guvarts and Lintucanto. Now, is Louis Westover going to pick up a penalty for recovering from that incident, having been spat out of the corner onto the runoff area. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm not sure whether he's given up enough positions for that one to be let slide, but we'll have to find out on that one, because he basically got spat out at turn 2 and recovered on the runoff area between 4 and 5. So he's missed a part of the circuit, but I don't know whether he's given up enough places for that to be negated. So we'll find out. But the battle is on for the lead as Nicolas Pico leads the way once again. Ruben Moya has gone back down to 5th position in the battle as Goldstein goes for 2nd and gets the place from Jordan Brown-Nutley right in there in 4th position. That is Joey van Splunteren. So it's these 5 battling away for position. Great stuff from Pico, Goldstein, Brown-Nutley, Van Splunteren, Moya in 5th position. Then it's Xavier Hansheim, Noah Ruvers, and Sylvester Alexievas in the 291 in 8th position in front of Jana Guvarts and Louis Westover in 10th place. Terrific start to the race action. We only have one retirement by the look of it, and that is Max Pilker, who did not... Oh, Max Pilker didn't start the race. My apologies. So it's Tom Nelissen, the Belgian, who crashed out in that second corner incident. So Tom Nellison's weekend gets started in a very bad way from his point of view. Great racing at the front still, though. We've got Pico, Brown-Nutley, Goldstein, Van Splunteren and Moya still all battling away for position. Goldstein having now broken into 2nd place, chasing down Nicolas Pico. And we know already that Goldstein was the faster of the 2 drivers over the course of practice. So Goldstein is dropping the guys behind us. Van Splunteren goes for 3rd, makes the move on Brown-Nutley. And so Joey Van Splunteren into 3rd position. Here comes Brown-Nutley straight back again into turn 2. Van Splunteren moving to cover him off. Great racing between these 2 for 3rd position, and Ruben Moya's got a chance to get up the inside of Brown-Nutley into P4. He is there, and that's bringing the 6th place battle into the game. Ruvers, Hansheim and Alexievas are all closing in, so it's now an 8-kart battle for the lead. 9th position still a way back. That's Westover now up to 9th place in front of Lintu Canto, De Grand and Jana Guvarts, who's dropped down into 12th position. So great racing in the early stages. But out front, it is Nicolas Pico from Eli Goldstein. Goldstein's closed right up this time. So this is going to be a really close battle for the rest of this race. We're on lap 4, and this is a very tough battle. So down into the bottom end of the circuit, turn 16. As Nicolas Pico runs through, then we've got this left-right flick. And the left-right flick again. Pico, Goldstein, Van Splunteren. Then it is Ruben Moya up into 4th position. In there in front of Jordan Brown-Nutley. Noah Ruvers is getting closer in 6th place. Then it is Xavier Hansheim and Sylvester Alexievas. That's the 8 in this battle for the lead. Then 9th position, it's a 3-way scrap between Louis Westover, Levi Lintucanto and Sebastien Degrand. Brilliant racing in the early stages here at Mariembourg, as the first race of the weekend is already fever pitch. Pico, Goldstein, Van Splunteren, Moya, Brown-Nutley, Ruvers, Hansheim and Alexievas. Great racing in the top 8. They come onto the far side of the circuit in the middle of the 2nd sector, and Goldstein is trying to drop 3rd place man Joey Van Splunteren and get onto the pace of Nicolas Pico, the youngest man in the field. Eli Goldstein, only 14 years of age, the youngest you can be. Now, looks like behind them there's been a bit of a change for positions. Ruben Moya's getting squeezed out, dropping down to 7th position, now coming straight back on the inside of Xavier Hansheim, and there's contact. They've come together, and Ruben Moya's dropped back. So Moya down the order there to 8th position, drops to the back of the queue. He's going to fall back even further now, because he's now right in there in the mix with the 9th place battle. Louis Westover trying to come through on the Dan Holland racing cart. But that is a really intense start to the race for Ruben Moya, and not for the reasons he wanted it to be. Joey Van Splunteren now runs in 3rd position. Fastest lap of the race, Nicolas Pico out in front on a 57.065. Just a whisker faster than Eli Goldstein. Those 2 have started to pull clear. Van Splunteren, Brown-Nutley and Ruvers is now the top 5. Alexievas has come up to 6th. Hansheim's dropped to 7th. Ruben Moya down to 8th after their little fisticuffs there. So that's a big problem for Hansheim and Ruben Moya. And I wonder if that just got a little bit too close for comfort for both of them there. But the leaders have broken clear. Pico and Goldstein. Then it's Van Splunteren, Brown-Nutley and Ruvers. And they are all close in together. So there's a good chance for Goldstein to overcome Pico. Here's that battle for 3rd place. Van Splunteren, Brown-Nutley and Ruvers. Signals from the mechanics as they come through once again. The hot dog bun on the front of the cart there for Nicolas Pico, clearly serving him well as Jordan Brown-Nutley breaks into 3rd place once again from Joey Van Splunteren. Nice bit of battling between those 2. Noah Ruvers just sat there in 5th position. He has gone for the new OTK Nassau panel. In fact, all 3 of these guys have it. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get the battle, get the benefit in the battle. Further back, we've got a driver moving forward through the field. That is the 300, I think that is, coming through and making up a position. So that is Milan Petele, who's just got the place on Sebastien Degrand. Nice move there. So movers and shakers in the field. Well, we've got a few drivers up quite a few places. Masatoro Wada and Stefan Planchamp, unfortunately, have gone the other way. They've gone backwards through the field. Some good progress made, though, by Noah Ruvers. He's up 9 places. Sylvester Alexievas is up 6. Levi Luntacanto has come up to 8th place now. That's up 7 places from the grid. Milan Petele and Morgan Porter have moved through the field pretty quickly as well. Morgan Porter's actually set the fastest second sector of anybody, so he is in the mix there as well. 4 laps to go, and the driver's pushing very hard. Eli Goldstein still sat there behind Nicolas Pico, waiting for his moment to pounce. He wants to get as few points on the board as possible. In the heats, you get points based on where you finish. So if you finish first, you don't score a single point at all. If you finish second, you score 2. If you finish third, you get 3, 4th, 4, 5th, 5, and so on. And it's a golf score, basically. Whoever's got the least amount of points after the qualifying heats will start at the front for the pre-final, which is the first race of the weekend that gives you championship points. And we'll talk about that when we get to that tomorrow. So Pico and Goldstein, Brown Nutley and Van Spunteren and Ruvers. Alexievas is now fastest of all in the first sector in 6th position, trying to close back on them once again. Great racing. Only that little bit of fisticuffs at turn 2 on the first lap. There's not really been any filthy racing since then. The driver's keeping it pretty clean throughout. A little bit of a battle with Xavier Hansheim and Ruben Moyer, who's now slipped to 10th position behind Louis Westover, by the way. But great racing otherwise, and it's been very, very tight battles throughout. Really exciting stuff. So still these two out in the sharp end of the field. Really exciting racing from them as they continue to battle away. Here they come once more. Pico and Goldstein still being hunted down by Brown Nutley, Van Spunteren and Ruvers, who are now being joined in the battle once again by Sylvester Alexievas, the Lithuanian, as Ruben Moyer makes a move back on Louis Westover to tuck in there behind Xavier Hansheim. So that's 2 CIK FIA Academy contenders in there in the top 10. But Goldstein, look how close he is now to Nicolas Pico. He's saved his best for last, clearly. He wants to lead as few laps as possible. What if he gets him on the last lap? That really would be pretty something special as they come down the far side. And into turn 16, the right-hander, then through the right-left flick. Here they come. Through the left-right flick they'll go. There's the battle for third position for the minute. Brown Nutley, Van Spunteren, Ruvers and Alexievas. They come over the line once again. And that is 2 laps to go. So 2 laps to go now. This is the moment when drivers who'll be sitting pretty on the fence, waiting for an opportune moment to go for an overtake, will now be planning it. So Goldstein in there behind Nicolas Pico. Not going for the overtaking move yet. He needs to build up to it. But he will know, perhaps a little better than Nicolas Pico, where the best overtaking moves are around this Karting de Fagnes International Raceway Circuit are, because he knows this place so well. So Goldstein still pushing very hard here on the back of Nicolas Pico. Third position, Jordan Brown Nutley in front of Joey Van Spunteren. Who's going to get that third position in that battle? They seem to have dropped Noah Ruvers and Sylvester Alexievas to battle away amongst themselves. So it's 2 by 2 hurrah at the front end. A battle for first, a battle for third, and a battle for fifth. Down to the far side of the circuit, and Eli Goldstein is running out of laps to get this battle done. He's about to go into the final lap of this race. Here they come, and Goldstein just a little too far back to go for the overtaking move right now. But if there's an ultra bit of defence from Nicolas Pico, it could happen as Joey Van Spunteren's now trying to make the move on Jordan Brown Nutley. Brown Nutley defends for third position. Great racing of these two. I have a feeling Pico and Goldstein are going to finish at that, but Joey Van Spunteren desperately trying to get back past Jordan Brown Nutley to move into third position once again. They come out through 5. And up towards turn 6, flat on the throttle through there. And that's a very cheeky move from Joey Van Spunteren. And I think he's got through into third place. Was that Van Spunteren through? Yes, it was. So Joey Van Spunteren, a cheeky move into turn 6 there. Makes that work. Beautifully done. And he will now be in third position. There he is. Joey Van Spunteren in front of Jordan Brown Nutley. Terrific work. But the leaders are getting to the far side of the circuit. Nicolas Pico realises that Goldstein is there, but he's not close enough to make the overtake. So it's back on the power. And a victorious run to the flag for Nicolas Pico. He takes the first win of the weekend. Brilliant work from Nicolas Pico. Goldstein is second. Third is Joey Van Spunteren ahead of Jordan Brown Nutley. Fifth place, Noah Ruvers. Sixth place, Sylvester Alexievas. Good battle between those two at the front, and Eli Goldstein and Nicolas Pico give each other the thumbs up as they go round on the slowing down lap. Louis Westover in seventh from Ruben Moyer, Xavier Hansheim, and Milan Petele. Wow, what a fast and frenetic start to the weekend. A great performance there from Nicolas Pico. Fastest lap of the race on the very last lap. Eli Goldstein, absolutely determined to prove a point, and did the fastest lap of the weekend on a 56.634. It's the fastest lap of the racing, I should say. Sorry, his fastest lap of the weekend was a 55.8. My apologies. So 56.6 from Eli Goldstein, fastest lap. But there's your top 12. Pico, Goldstein, and Van Splinteren in the top 3. From Jordan Brown-Nutley and Noah Ruvers. Sylvester Alexeyevas and Louis Westover climbing to 7th place. Ruben Moyer in 8th in front of Javier Hansheim and Milan Petelet. Then it's Sebastien Degrand and Morgan Porter from Lenticanto. Platten, Liedmar, Guvarts, Saville Martin, Hernandez Ruiz, Wada, LaRue. Then it's Jan-Philippe Springhoff, Manuel Godofratone, Thanapongpang Sutumnu, and Jack Tomelin. And then it's Rivaldo van der Westerlaken having to recover after his little trip up in the first couple of corners from Rafael Villagomez and Stevan Planchamp. But unfortunately, Tom Nellison was the one who ended off out of the race at turn 3 after that little tap from those drivers in there. And unfortunately, that's the very longest of starts to his weekend he could possibly have hoped for. A real shame. Well, there's going to be a bit of a pause now before we get the number 297 of Tom Nellison sorted out, but there are a few drivers hopefully around the paddock. If anybody wants to come up for a quick word in the commentary box, we have the live stream rolling, of course, for Telemundi Media and are live on Downforce UK Radio, so plenty of great racing ahead and an opportunity to tell everybody back home how you are doing, depending on where it is you come from. International drivers welcome, of course, not just the Brits. We've had a lot of Brits up here, I know, but we'd like to hear from a few of the drivers from further afield as well. So if you wanted to make your way up to the commentary box, please do, and we'll fit time in between races for you, no problem at all. So there is the 297 of Tom Nellison being cleared away there. Really fascinating start to the weekend there, though, for Nicolas Pico, wasn't it? A perfect race start from his point of view. Eli Goldstein in second position, shadowing his every move, but never really close enough in the main event of those last couple of laps to really move his way forward. And a real shame there from his point of view, because I think he would have liked to have taken the first race of the weekend to really give himself that confidence boost. But in third position there, Joey Van Splinteren, amazing move there on the last lap on Jordan Brown-Nutley through 6. Just disciplinarian, authoritative, up the inside, clean as a whistle, and very, very nicely done indeed. So that's the kind of form you're going to get from those drivers here this weekend. If you've just joined us, you've missed a thrilling start to the Senior X30 Brigade, but you've got plenty more races to sit back and enjoy all the way through till 8 o'clock local time. So if you're watching in the UK, that's 7 p.m. If you're watching out in the United States of America, because I know there are a few people who do, then you've got a very nice breakfast to get through yet. But a very nice welcome to you. We've got people watching on the other side of the world as well, because there's a very strong talent on this particular grid from the Antipodean part of the world. The Australian Sean Butcher will line up on the front row of the starting grid for this second X30 senior qualifying heat alongside Joe Turney, the British star, who lines up in pole position for it. Joe Turney and Sean Butcher on that front row from Vincent Marceau and Clayton Ravenscroft. You heard us talking to Turney and Ravenscroft a little earlier on. They were up here in the commentary box with us, and now they are preparing for the great racing action for the remainder of the weekend. There in the middle of the circuit is Sean Butcher, the Australian, the number 304 under the Mick Barrett Racing banner, getting himself ready for performance. There is a few of the drivers getting ready. The world champion just off to the right there, that's Danny Curl, who, of course, had a difficult practice sessions, but he's brought it back a little bit with his qualifying performance there. Danny Curl will start this race from the 6th row of the grid, and from there, he can definitely make good progress. You can see Enzo Giroud in there as well in the middle of the Cosmic suit, and you also saw the Swedish driver in there of Isaac Valtonen. So good to see drivers in there. Oh, actually, that might have been Robin Knutson. My apologies. In the very similar machine. Of course, they are both racing with Cosmics and the X30 Brigade. So both of those Swedish drivers, they're just being cleared away now, the mechanics off of the grid. And, of course, that is because in just a couple of moments' time, we will be racing for the second time this weekend. So the grid is cleared of all of the mechanics and the drivers getting themselves underway racing as Mr. Starter runs down the straight, running a lot better than I could do. But we're getting ourselves ready to go racing. Mario at the end of the pits, ready to send them all out. A great crew here at RGMMC, with all of the people working very hard to put us in a good, safe and organised frame of mind. Everybody from the timekeepers to the officials and the marshals around the circuit over in scrutineering as well. Or everybody from Martin Bean in race control, Paul Klassen in scrutineering. Is a very, very well-run ship here at the IAME X30 European Series, and great work from the Guidals, who steer us through everything from administration to organisation to catering and hospitality. It's a great little paddock to be in, and it's one of the most inviting you could ever wish to spend time in. Joe Turney and Sean Butcher at the front end of the field. The Frenchman Vincent Marcerou is to the left-hand side of the screen there, the second on the left. Alongside him on the grid will be Clayton Ravenscroft. Angus Moulsdale, the national champion from Scotland, will be there in third row of the grid alongside the Dutchman. You can see there Henke Waldschmidt with the third position of that side of the grid. Henke Waldschmidt, of course, is a name familiar to anybody who's been watching motor racing over the last 10 years or so. He's been racing in all sorts of different things, Henke Waldschmidt. He's returned to senior karting, but he was in the F3 European Series in 08 and 09. Before that, the Formula Renault 2-litre Euro Cup. He even tested for the Toyota Formula 1 team. So it's good to see Formula 1 is still relevant here in Senior X30 as the drivers go around for their 2 formation laps. Here's the grid. Joe Turney and Sean Butcher on the front row. From Clayton Ravenscroft and Vincent Marcerou, Henke Waldschmidt and Angus Moulsdale together on the third row of the grid. It's Rens van Pelt and Ben Fayers on row 4. Isaac Valtonen and Ali Akabi, the Jordanian, in the top 10. Felix Varga and Danny Curl. Then it's Thomas Imburg and Robin Knutson. Ross Hayes, the Irishman, and Anzo Giraud. Kevin Stahauer and Owen Bayat. Eduardo Cosatang and Martin Hebet. Then it's Nicolas Bayard and Henke Kalteren. Liam Hezemans and Lena Bueller. Then it's Evan Bachera, Kilian Belair, Gustav Brandin, and Camille Donich. So that is the field as they run around the circuit for their 2 formation laps. They obviously have to get a good feel for the circuit before they get sent off into racing. Only one catastrophe from the last race, Tom Nellison. They have recovered his kart and they're already getting it prepared for the second heat of his day, so that's absolutely fine. A bit disappointing, but at least he is going to continue on the weekend. You can see very vividly there the teams and the drivers that have chosen to use the new Nassau panels with a split groove up the middle, which channels the air better, particularly in the gaggle of karts when you're in the concertina and you're in the crocodile, as it were, battling away for positions. They do say that if you get it right, it is very beneficial. Some of the drivers say they make great use out of it. Others are not so sure. And some of them are still very unclear as to what the point of it is in the first place. But it looks very interesting. It looks very good. To some people it doesn't, but it's a nice new bit of technology. So a lot of drivers and teams are clambering to use it just to see if it gives them any performance benefits at all. You'll notice the ones who either haven't chosen to bring it with them this weekend or have used it and chosen to deviate back to the old system by virtue of the fact that they have not got it. But both of the front row men, Joe Turney and Sean Butcher, have both got the new Nassau panel. So we'll see how the drivers cope with this in their first race of the weekend. Joe Turney and Sean Butcher from the front. Marcerou and Ravenscroft. Moulsdale and Waldschmidt. Van Pelt and Fayers. Valtonen and Akabi. Wager and Kiel. Imburg and Knutson. Hayes and Giraud. Stahauer and Bayat. Cosatang and Hebet. Bayat, Kalteren, Hezemans, Bueller, Bachera, Belair, Brandin and Donich. It's going to be a really interesting battle from the start of this race as they come off of the turn. They will get into the tram lines. It looks like it's going to be a faster start than we saw in the previous race. They're getting up to speed. Is this going to be a good start? Yes, it is. And away we go. Ravenscroft immediately comes through to the inside line and gets second position off the start. Cracking getaway for the KR Sport Cards. Turney and Ravenscroft, first and second, straight out the blocks. And into third place has come Vincent Marcerou. So Marcerou is up there. No, that's Waldschmidt. And Waldschmidt up the inside already. Waldschmidt's through into second position. What a start from Henke Waldschmidt. So he splits the KR Sport carts. There's 3 or 4 carts that have come a-clattering at the far side. 233, 229, 298 and one of the 300s. So there's a few carts down the back who have had a bit of a clatter into each other. 5 in total, and there's 2 of them off the circuit at turn 2. So we've lost 2 already. Yellow flags will wave, and we've got 2 carts off there at turn 2. I'm not entirely sure who it is from this distance. Hopefully we can get a camera down there to have a look at it. But we do have 2 carts off the road. One is in the gravel and one of them is on the infield as they come through. So they're going to be told about the yellow flags as they come through this first time by. But out in front, it is Joe Turney who leads the way. Second is Waldschmidt. Third, Ravenscroft. From Butcher, Marcerou, Van Pelt, Fayers, Moulsdale, Valtonen and Danny Curl. So they come through turn 2. Yellow flags waving. And there are 2 carts down there. I'm going to try and figure out who it is that has not come through. Well, we haven't seen Eduardo Cosatang come through, so I'm guessing it must be him. Nicolas Bayard. No, Cosatang is about to come through. I think Cosatang has come into the pits with damage to his cart. The others who are involved in that one, by the way, We've had Lena Bueller, Evan Becerra and Gustav Brandin have all come through slowly. Kosseteng has brought the kart into the pits to retire, and then it's Nicolas Bayart and Liam Hezemans who have ended up off the circuit there at turn 1. Kilian Belair, I don't think, took the start, and Kamil Donic likewise. So problems there, or either that or they've had some difficulties. But there's a big problem for the start of the race for those guys, unfortunately. Joe Turney leads the way. Ravenscroft back in his second position in front of Henke Waldschmidt, though. Sean Butcher in fourth place. Fifth is Marceau from Van Pelt, Fires and Angus Mulsdale. Great racing at the front, and up the inside, that's Butcher losing 2 places. So Butcher down to 6th position, behind Marceau, behind Van Pelt. So Butcher down to 6th place, the Australian. As he pushes hard, he's got 3 people right on his tail. That's Ben Fayers, Angus Mulsdale and Isaac Valtonen. So 9 karts battling for the victory this time as Sean Butcher makes his play to move up back on the inside. And he's going to battle there beautifully. Has he got through? That's another place made up, I think, for Butcher. So that puts him up the order into 5th position. Yes, he's through. And that's a bit of a challenge there further back as they squabble away. That's Ben Fayers and Isaac Valtonen, I think that is, scrapping away for position. Angus Mulsdale in the mix there as well. Several drivers compromised by that first corner incident. Kosseteng and Donic have retired from the race, I believe, as to Nicolas Bayart, Liam Hezemans and Kilian Belair. Joe Turney leads the way, though. Second, Waldschmidt. Here comes Ravenscroft. Here he comes again. Up the inside, looks for the place, but Waldschmidt is a tough driver to compete with. Let's not forget, Clayton Ravenscroft is going toe-to-toe with a man who's got all the way up to the top of motorsport. He was a test driver for the Toyota Formula 1 team at one point, Henke Waldschmidt, and he is right there in second position. So battling away with Joe Turney. Waldschmidt, Ravenscroft, Van Pelt, Butcher, Marceau, Valtonen and Mulsdale. We're on the 4th lap here of this incredible encounter. 8 to go, including this one. And there is an amazing tussle for positions as all of the drivers sweat away and battle tooth and nail, apex after apex. And out in front, it is still Joe Turney who leads the way from Henke Waldschmidt and Clayton Ravenscroft. The fastest in the second sector, Sean Butcher. Fastest in the first sector is currently Felix Varga, the Belgian racer. As they come across the line once again, Joe Turney gets the fastest lap until Rens Van Pelt crosses the line in P4. Van Pelt using his local knowledge of this circuit to really chase these guys down. Great racing. What an amazing start to the weekend for Joe Turney, Henke Waldschmidt and Clayton Ravenscroft in particular, having missed all of yesterday's practice session, doing his exams back home in Great Britain. Clayton Ravenscroft has come straight in and has got an opportunity to score very few points indeed from these qualifying heats. As already mentioned, in the qualifying heats, it's like golf. You want to score as few points as possible. You take a win, you score nothing. Second, you get 2. Third, you get 3. Fourth, you get 4, and so on and so on. So it's like a golf score. The person with the least amount of points through the qualifying heats comes through as the victor. So Joe Turney in front of Henke Waldschmidt and Clayton Ravenscroft. Rens Van Pelt being caught by Sean Butcher. Vincent Marceau in there in 6th position still, with Isaac Valtonen now up to 7th place in front of Angus Mulsdale. Then Ben Fires and Ali Akabi, the Jordanian, doing a fantastic job moving forward. He and Danny Curl have just got past Ben Fires to move up into the top 10 even further. So Danny Curl is on the comeback drive, the HTP kart team driver, in there behind Ali Akabi, as they fight for 9th position at the moment. There they are as they battle away. That's Ali Akabi leading Danny Curl, the reigning world champion. So through they come onto the far side of the circuit once again, and it's still Turney from Waldschmidt and Ravenscroft. Turney, fastest first sector of the race thus far. So things going really well from their point of view. A good start and a good battle. And still no major change at the front end of the field from the last couple of laps. Turney, Waldschmidt, Ravenscroft, Van Pelt, Butcher, Marceau and Isaac Valtonen. Valtonen's about 0.7 of a second away from these guys, but it's a really good start to proceedings and some good challenges in the early stages. We have got 5 laps to go as they come across the line. And Joe Turney running very wide at turn 1. Goodness me, Joe. Well, don't just open the door and let him through. Henke Waldschmidt caught a little off guard there. I don't think he thought that Joe Turney was going to run that wide. Turney gets it back into position. So no major catastrophes, but he still leads the way under a lot of pressure here at the Mariembourg circuit. A fantastic facility this, and great racing already. But how close it is in the top 6 as these guys all run together. Turney, Waldschmidt, Ravenscroft, Van Pelt, Butcher and Marceau. Looking through the field, there's a few drivers making up some progress. The big mover is actually the Dutchman Henke Kalteren, who's come up 6 places to 16th as he moves his way forward. He's managed to catch up to the back of Robin Knutson, and he's overtaken the likes of Owen Byatt, Ross Hayes and Kevin Stahauer, just on the lower end of the top 20. And now Henke Waldschmidt's really getting on to Joe Turney. He's chipping away at that gap. It's getting smaller and smaller between them. And Waldschmidt now putting Joe Turney under some severe pressure. Not bad to be hustled by an ex-F1 test driver, is it? Joe Turney working hard to hold on to his advantage as he continues to pan around the circuit, pushing for a way through on the inside line. Trying to make his way through. Clayton Ravenscroft still tight in there for 3rd position. 4th place, Rens Van Pelt. 5th position, the 3:04 of Sean Butcher, the Australian, in front of the Frenchman Vincent Marceau. So through they come again. And this is going to be tight for Henke Waldschmidt. Where is he going to make his move, the Dutchman, on Joe Turney? You definitely sense it's coming. And he's going to try and make a nice move on the Brit. But Joe Turney is a tough man to overtake. No matter where he races, he is always very strong. Whether it's at home in the British Championships or here in Europe, Joe Turney very, very strong and able-bodied. He's always in the top 5 in these times, it seems. And here this weekend is no exception. Leading the way with Henke Waldschmidt closing him down. Rens Van Pelt just keeping a check over his shoulder there in 4th place, waiting to see if he can make his move on Clayton Ravenscroft with 3 laps to go as they battle away in the top 5. Sean Butcher is 5th. Then it's Marceau from Valtonen, who's working up some good progress to 7th place. Mulsdale. Then it's Ackerby, Curl, Giroud, Varga, Imborg, Byatt, Kalteren, Fayers, Stahauer, Knutson, Martin Hebet, and Lena Bueller, who's fought her way back into the top 20. So she's obviously having a good run for pace, but has not really been able to have a good run courtesy of being tapped off at the start. That's Danny Curl now at the front of his queue in 9th position. So he's got past Ali Ackerby, and now Danny Curl is up to 9th position. So damage limitation for the HTP kart driver at the moment. But Henke Waldschmidt is about to go on to the penultimate lap with Joe Turney in his sights. Will he go for the overtaking move or will he bag points? Let's see what happens. Over the line, Joe Turney just keeping Henke Waldschmidt in check behind him. There's a little bit of breathing space between himself and Clayton Ravenscroft further back. Then there's Rens Van Pelt, Sean Butcher, Vincent Marceau. And then we've got Isaac Valtonen, Angus Mulsdale, Danny Curl and Enzo Giroud now coming into the top 10. Great battles further back. There's a little bit of a touch there in the middle pack. And I think that's dropping further backwards down the order. One of the Evolution karts. And I'll try and figure out who it is that's lost places there. It's the 325 that went backwards down, lost a few places. That's Ben Fayers, unfortunately. So Ben Fayers has lost a few places, considering he was in the top 10 at one point. Fayers having all sorts of difficulties now on the lower end of the top 20, unfortunately. So Joe Turney still hanging on in front of Henke Waldschmidt. Waldschmidt still quite close. Ravenscroft 3rd, Van Pelt 4th, Butcher in 5th, and Vincent Marceau still in 6th position. But these 6 have broken away from Isaac Valtonen and Angus Mulsdale. They continue to battle away as we go into the final lap. And this is going to be the charge for Henke Waldschmidt. Can he make his move? Waldschmidt on the back of Joe Turney as they come up towards turn 2. Nicely tucked in there for 3 as they come up to turn 4. That starts quite open, then tightens on the exit. Ravenscroft still defending from Van Pelt. Not very dramatically, though, because he's got the space. There's a bit of a mistake there from Vincent Marceau. He drops down to 8th position. So Vincent Marceau has now fallen off the leading battle. Through into 6th has gone Isaac Valtonen. Through to 7th has gone Angus Mulsdale. Waldschmidt still trying to come past Joe Turney. Now he's going to make his move on the inside. He's up on the curbs. Goodness me, Waldschmidt nearly got through. Not able to this time. Now he's going to put himself on the inside once again. They bang wheels. Turney deliberately on the inside there. Resolute trying to come through. Ravenscroft's through. Van Pelt's through. And Butcher's coming through as well. So Waldschmidt goes for the lead and drops back 4 places. And it's going to be a 1-2 for KR Sport. Absolutely incredible. Joe Turney wins. Ravenscroft 2nd, just in front of Rens Van Pelt. Butcher is 4th. What a terrific race. Waldschmidt crosses the line in 5th position. So near and yet so far. But KR Sport 1 and 2. What a start for the Cosmic Race team. Absolutely fantastic. Joe Turney and Clayton Ravenscroft clean up in the first heat of the weekend from Rens Van Pelt, the local man, in 3rd place. Sean Butcher is 4th from Henke Waldschmidt. Isaac Valtonen in 6th position in front of Angus Mulsdale and Vincent Marceau. Danny Curl fighting his way back to 9th position, the reigning world champion. And in 10th position, Enzo Giraud, the Swiss. Well, that was something else. Absolutely terrific. So Joe Turney wins from Ravenscroft, Van Pelt, Butcher, Waldschmidt, Valterdon, Mulsdale, Marceau, Curl and Giraud from Felix Varga, and Ali Ackerby slipping to 12th in the end from Thomas Imburg. Then it is Henke Kalteren, Owen Byatt and Kevin Stahauer. Then we have Robin Knutson and Martin Hevet. Ben Fayers dropping to 19th in the end, sadly, from Lena Bueller, Ivan Becerra, Gustav Brandin, and then we have our retirements. Sadly, it was Ross Hayes, and then we also lost Eduardo Cosseteng, Camille Donich, and then, of course, on that first lap, we lost Nicolas Beart and Liam Hezemans, and then, of course, Kylian Belair did not take up the start in the end, the Frenchman. So problems there for those guys, and it's a longer start to their season. There they are, those two, Nicolas Beart and Liam Hezemans, who got caught up there, unfortunately, in that first corner incident. Several karts involved, but those were the two that got spat out to the scenery. A really disappointing start to the season for Liam Hezemans, who is, of course, the grandson of Twan Hezemans and the son of Mike Hezemans, the famous FIA GT racer. So Liam there, having a frustrating start to his weekend, and problems too for Nicolas Beart, his countryman. Well, I say countryman, Liam Hezemans is actually Dutch by birth, but races under a Belgian licence. But again, really exciting stuff from the X30 seniors, and the two opening heats then are clinched in fantastic style. A really exciting beginning to their weekend. And having had the two heats so far, we have Nicolas Pico and Joe Turney sealing victories from their pole position, but a lot of action behind them in both circumstances. Really exciting stuff. And that's the X30 seniors for now, giving us some great entertainment, as that is Nicolas Beart just getting himself onto the truck as they will bring their karts home. Not the way they wanted to end their race, really. But now we move on to the X30 Juniors as the next class, and that's going to be a real nail-biter. There's some fantastic drivers in this category in 2018. And as you can see from the holding area, the drivers are just being spoken to by the race officials as they get themselves ready for action. And this really will be some sensational driving we're about to see from the X30 Juniors. You can see a lot of the locals who are coming in there to battle away. That's a shame. That was a really nice shot, actually, overlooking the drivers in the holding area. And unfortunately, somebody had to come along and walk in front of the camera. What a shame, because that was a really good shot, actually, as we watch those drivers there being spoken to by race officials. There we go. Much better shot there. That's what we are after. As now Beart and Hezemans have blocked the shot. No luck at all with our cameras so far today. Great work from the team, though, at Telemundi Media, working very hard there with the entire crew around the circuit, with everybody working very hard indeed to bring you the pictures on the live stream and also live on the audio commentary on Downforce UK. If you have a Spreaker application on your smartphone, be it Android or Apple, you can listen to the action as it happens and listen back to it post-broadcast as well for free. And that's wherever you are in the world as well. So, Maximus Meyer goes into unknown territory from the front of the grid, having put himself into pole position in magnificent fashion yesterday evening. He was hoping for a top 10. Somebody had better ideas in store for him. A pole position in the number 19. Really, really exciting qualifying session that was too, to be fair, from Max Meyer. He's got Rimo Kadapik, the Estonian, alongside him for this one, and he's going to be a really big threat because Kadapik has been fast all weekend here at Mariembourg. We've had Josh Ratican and Noah Maton on that second row of the grid as well. They're going to be strong contenders. We'll also have Ollie Pilker and Zach Ripley from the front of this grid. In fact, there is Zach Ripley, just about to get into his kart on the left side of your screen, stood up. On the right side is the man on the front row of the grid. That is Rimo Kadapik, the Estonian. And sat down in the kart between them is Noah Maton. Behind Ripley, to the left of your screen there, that is Helenin Nerudini, I should say, sorry. Who was born in Albania, races in Germany, and is a German national these days. Great performance from him to put himself on the fourth row of the grid alongside his countryman in the rival team, Daniel Gregor, who will start 7th on the grid for this one. On the 5th row of the grid is going to be Tom Leben and Joshua McLean rounding out that top 10, so it's an all-British 5th row. Linus Janssen, the German, will line up alongside the flying Scotsman himself, Cian Shields, who has made the jump from being a privateer at the start of the season to join Fusion Motorsport, and I'm not at all surprised. 3rd position on his European debut 3 months ago in the IAME Valencia Winter Cup. That was absolutely incredible from Cian Shields, and it's great to see him in a full-time capacity with the Fusion Motorsport team, and he's settling into that squad very, very well indeed. Laurens de Querta on the 7th row alongside the Canadian Jason Young. And then we have Liam McNeely of Great Britain alongside the Estonian Ken Oscar Algra. And then Eron Reshepi of Switzerland, Zach Meekin of Great Britain. And then at the back of the field, it will be Alicia Barrett, who didn't have the greatest of luck in qualifying yesterday. But she's one of those drivers who will definitely make progress through the field with her overtaking prowess. So you'll hear a lot from her as the racing progresses. But the drivers are now sat in position, ready to go. We've got a few teams and drivers getting themselves ready. That's the 3-2-4. They've obviously gone the wrong way to get to scrutineering, and they very nearly impede the start of this Junior X30 race. That's one clanger that didn't need to happen. But we're waiting for the signal to go at the end of the pit lane as Mario is ready to give them the signal at the end of the pit lane. This is going to be a really interesting start to the Junior X30 weekend because a few of the drivers who have already been listed as potential winners of this weekend are in the adjacent heat to this one. So I'd like to see what these guys can really do in terms of their initial prowess, because we've got Max Meyer from pole position and Remo Kadapik in second. And they are going to be really interesting battlers in this one. Max Meyer in a very positive frame of mind, and the young Englishman who lives these days out in Spain. Great to see him at the front end of the field, and I'm sure that everybody back home in San Miguel de Salinas will be cheering him on and rooting for a great result. Hello to Mum Susanna, who is watching from home for Max Meyer. I'm sure you're loving what your son is doing so far. So, here's the grid. Max Meyer and Remo Kadapik on the front row from Josh Ratican and Noah Maton. The third row of the grid is Olli Pilker and Zach Ripley. The fourth row is all German, Daniel Gregor and Herodin Nerudini. Then in the fifth row it is Tom Leben and Josh McLean. Linus Janssen and Cian Shields on the sixth row from Laurens de Querta and Jason Young on the seventh. Liam McNeely is on the eighth row alongside Ken Oscar Algra. Eron Reshepi and Zach Meekin are on the ninth row. And rounding out the field in this heat, it is Alicia Barrett from Great Britain in the Fusion Motorsport car. Plenty of action to come in Junior X30. I've already said a few times on this broadcast that for my money, there's about 17 or 18 drivers who could win the final in this class alone. And that is absolutely incredible. The competition in this field is absolutely astonishing. And to give you an indication from practice, we have had some amazing lap times. They're all in the 56s or 57s pretty much. Only Eron Reshepi didn't have the greatest of practice runs, but he more than made up for that in qualifying to get himself into a better position. But this is going to be a really interesting battle and a really interesting race from the Junior X30s. Max Meyer and Remo Kadapik on that front row of the grid from Josh Ratican and Noah Maton. Then it will be Olli Pilker and Zach Ripley on the third row, with the fourth row taken up by the two Germans, Daniel Gregor and Herodind Nerudini. Then we'll have Tom Leben and Josh McLean on the top 10 fringe, Linus Janssen and the Flying Scotsman Cian Shields. Then it will be Laurens de Querta and Jason Young of Canada, Liam McNeely and Ken Oscar Algra, Eron Reshepi, Zach Meekin and Alicia Barrett. They now form up in position. That got a little bit messy at one point there on the far side, but they all seem to be slotting themselves back into positions again. Got a little bit tricky as one of the Fusions is trying to get himself back into position by the look of it. Might not be a Fusion, actually. I think it might be one of the drivers on the second or third row of the grid. That might be Noah Maton, who has had a little bit of a moment there and had to put himself back into his slot on the second row of the grid. So now the drivers are all formed up neatly, and we're going to get hopefully a very clean start. But for Max Meyer, this is going to be a very interesting race, and he knows just what's at stake here. The 12-year-old who is living in San Miguel de Salinas in Spain, but he is English by birth. He is going to be an absolutely fantastic driver to battle with in this opening stage of the race weekend. So Meyer and Kadapik, Ratican and Maton, Pilker and Ripley, Gregor and Nerudini, Lebon and McLean. The revs rise, and we're racing. 8 laps of the circuit to come, and Max Meyer leaps straight into the lead. Second position, a good start from Josh Ratican, who comes straight through into P2, although he's got some challenge as he gets to the apex. But Ratican is there. Is it all clean? No, it's not. We've got somebody off in the background. Now, who's that that's got off and now rejoined? So we've had a spin at turn 2. It looks as though they're going to recover the positions, but all that battling for second place, look at that, has given Max Meyer an absolute country mile of a lead out front. Now, the first one to spin off, that was actually Noah Maton, would you believe, who started on that second row of the grid. Second place is up for grabs immediately, and it looks like it's going to be the 37 of Josh Radican, who holds on to it for the moment. He manages to get there in front of Daniel Gregor once again. Gregor initially in second. Now it's Josh Radican who comes through. Max Meyer and Susanna back in Spain must be absolutely loving this. They've got an absolute mile in front of everybody else. This is a terrific start to the weekend for Max Meyer. Here he comes over the line. He's going to have a couple of seconds on the rest of the guys behind. So Meyer across the line, 2.4 seconds clear after one lap. That doesn't happen very often in the dry. And it is the 67 of Noah Maton who sadly drops all the way down to 19th place. We got two more off this time. Now, that looks like Canopy. Is that Canopy who's got a problem there? The broken nose cone. That's a big name to fall. This early in the weekend, that looks to me like Rimo Canopy. He's come to a stop on the exit of turn 2. And I think that is, yes, Rimo Canopy with big damage from the front row of the grid. The Estonian is absolutely enraged. He cannot believe it. Wow, I've seen some tantrums thrown at the end of a weekend, but Rimo Canopy, he's still absolutely livid, ranting and raving at his poor fortunes here on the second weekend. And that is absolutely disastrous from Rimo Canopy. He's so livid. Oh, I've never seen anybody that physically irate before. Goodness me. Well, the second place battle continues. Well, this is the battle further back. That's Ken-Oscar Algra making his move on the inside of Jason Young. And that is for position as well, obviously. So that's moving slightly further forward. And that's another move made there for the 37 of Josh Radican to come through on Tom Leben, actually. That was the second place battle we were looking at. My apologies. That's Tom Leben through into second place. So it's Brits 1, 2, and 3. And 4, actually, as well, because Zach Ripley's in the mix there as well. So it's British 1, 2, 3, and 4. With fifth place, that is Ollie Pilker, the Pole from Warsaw. So good to see him there in fifth position. And we've had another kart come off the circuit up at turn 2 as well, I think. That is Daniel Gregor. Rimo Canopy, absolutely enraged. Oh, Gregor's got back on the circuit, actually, so Gregor's still pounding around. But Rimo Canopy, well, nobody asked him if he wants a bottle of water later. He'd probably throw it in your face. Anyway, second place, still up for grabs. Up the inside comes Zach Ripley. At the same time, behind him, Liam McNeely going for the move on Ollie Pilker. The Brits are flying in this heat. Great performance from Max Meyer out in front, who's extended his lead to 3 seconds now. Second is Tom Leben in the BMR car. What a fillet this is for the BMR Touring Car Academy squad. As up the inside comes Liam McNeely now to make the move on the inside of Josh Radican. He's through into fourth place, and Ollie Pilker's going to try and get past Radican too. He slams the door firmly shut in his face, and there is a black flag coming out for one of the drivers. It's 31. It's Daniel Gregor. So Daniel Gregor has been given the black flag. Now I wonder if that is as a result of his incident with Rimo Canopy. He has obviously come back onto the circuit and rejoined right down at the back, but Rimo Canopy out of this race. Now, the battle continuing on here because we've got several drivers in the mix. Here's Max Meyer across the line once again. Second place, Tom Leben, and he's got distance between himself and Zach Ripley. Fourth place, that is Liam McNeely from Ratican, Pilker, Lawrence the Querta, Cian Shields, the Flying Scotsman, Ken-Oscar Algra and Jason Young. Then it's Josh McLean. Zach Meakin's having a great race as well. The number 30 has come up to 12th position. Meakin, the youngster for the Gwent Valley Motorsport team, is going through the field like wildfire, and there's a bit of a battle going on between the HTP karts behind him. It's the 85 of Linus Janssen in front of Helen Nerdini. Both of them have got past Aaron Reshepi. Alicia Barrett is up ahead of Noah Maton, and then we've got Daniel Gregor and Rimo Canopy out of the race. Oh, a little bit of a nudge there as up the inside. That was a cheeky manoeuvre there from Lawrence de Querta. He gets the move on Ollie Pilker, and I'm not sure Pilker's going to be happy about that one. There was a little bit of a nerf there from Lawrence de Querta to unsettle Ollie Pilker to get through. But if he's dropped the nose cone fairing as a result of doing that, he'll get a penalty anyway. Across the line, Max Meyer is just having a boring race out in front. 3.1 seconds ahead of Tom Leben as they came through that last time by. Up the inside, that's a move from Josh McLean trying to get on the inside of Jason Young, and I'm not sure if he made that stick or not. But he is still threatening Jason Young all the way around the circuit. In fact, I think he's now lost out to Ken-Oscar Algra. So Jason Young got past Ken-Oscar Algra, and now the 76 of Josh McLean is trying to come through on the inside line, and he's made it. So McLean is through past the Ken-Oscar Algra. Nice move there from McLean in the Fusion Motorsport kart. So that puts him up into 10th position for Josh McLean. He heads into the top 10. And with 3 laps to go, the drama and the tension is absolutely fever pitch. But Max Meyer is having an absolute clean sweep of this race out in front. Look at him, he's on his own. He never would have thought he'd be gift-wrapped a victory like this. There's Tom Levin in 2nd place. 3rd is Ripley. 4th is McLean. And as they come through this time by, there is going to be 2 laps to go. Now, there's a board being shown out on the main straight. I'm guessing that is the 2 board to let people know that there are only 2 laps to go. But Maximus Meyer passes the wreckage of Rimo Kadapik's kart, and there is Rimo sat on the marshal's post. He cannot believe his misfortune from the front row of the grid, being one of the fastest drivers, if not the fastest, all weekend in the practice. He was actually fastest of all in practice yesterday with a time of 56.388. So Rimo Kadapik's weekend has just unravelled before him. No wonder he was hopping mad, because that really has compromised his weekend disastrously. So now Rimo Kadapik has got to do all that hard work all over again and fight his way back to the front. And it's a frustrating day at the office for the Estonian. It's an absolute cakewalk for the man in front, Max Meyer. He was absolutely delighted to be in the top 10 yesterday. To get pole position, it was like he'd won the race and won the championship. What's he going to be like when he looks back and realises? He has a quick look over his shoulder. Where is everybody? It's an absolute dominance from Max Meyer, completely on his own. He's not had any challenge at all in this race, and you barely ever get a result like that. But they were squabbling so much for 2nd place. Tom Levin is now safe and secure in that by the look of it. There's a lot of very happy campers here who have had an amazing run in what has been a really close battle. And there's been some great battles all the way through. So we're going to see some very happy chaps at the end of this race. Max Meyer from Tom Levin and Zach Ripley. It's going to be a complete cruise for the British drivers, British-born drivers, I should say. Of course, Max Meyer these days lives in Spain and races under a Spanish license, but he is a British-born driver. Out of the final turn, Max Meyer is going to get the most dominant victory you're ever going to see in Junior X30. Amazing! Max Meyer didn't even have to break a sweat in that race. Absolutely astonishing race. Tom Levin in 2nd place. A great result for the BMR team. They'll be absolutely elated with that one. 3rd place for Zach Ripley in front of Liam McNeely. That's a very satisfying result for the team in 3rd and 4th positions. They will be happy with that. A great result there. 5th position will go the way of Josh Rattican to make it British-born drivers clean sweeping the top 5. But Max Meyer, who's based in San Miguel de Salinas, has given Mum Susanna a very nice present there. A dominant victory. And that is a perfect way to start his weekend. Max Meyer winner from Tom Levin, Zach Ripley and Liam McNeely from Josh Rattican. Lawrence the Querta, the next man home as the local man. Ollie Pilker in 7th place from the Flying Scotsman, Cian Shields. Jason Young, Josh McLean, Ken-Oscar Algra, Helena Nerodini, Alicia Barrett tried to come through there in the end, but Linus Janssen came home in 13th. Zach Meekin, Noah Maton, Barrett and Aaron Reshepi, with retirements from Daniel Gregor and Rimo Kadapik. And the Estonian, let's have a look at him. He is absolutely, I don't even know the right word to use for what Kadapik's mood must be right now. One of the top drivers in this championship, Rimo Kadapik, fastest all weekend in practice. And the Estonian well and truly destroyed his weekend there. What a disastrous weekend this has been for the second part of the racing itself. But Rimo Kadapik from the front row of the grid, just a whisker slower than Max Meyer. His entire race meeting is now very badly compromised indeed. And what this effectively means for Rimo Kadapik is he's got to go back to the drawing board, look at where he's going to start his next few races and come back. His only consolation really now is that the rest of the heats that he will start from today, he'll still be on that front row of the grid, whatever happens, because he's the leader of his group. But that is a very vital victory, or at least a chance of, to be taken away from him so early in the meeting. That's a real devastation for Rimo Kadapik in particular. The Estonian absolutely irate. I wonder if we can actually get a replay of his reaction to it, because that was one heck of an irate Estonian. I've never seen anything quite like that before. But maybe there is a chance of a replay, I don't know, of a very frustrated Rimo Kadapik. That's how much it meant to him from the front row of the grid. He was absolutely hopping mad, wasn't he? Dear, oh dear. Well, there is another race to come from the juniors, and it features the championship leader, Lewis Gilbert, on pole position, alongside the Belgian talent Luca Leistra. And a lot of people coming into this one told us that Luca Leistra was going to be a favourite for this. We're just trying to look up that replay for the Rimo Kadapik incident. I'm not sure you'll actually see the crash itself because it happened on the second lap and it was a little bit overheated, but Rimo Kadapik's reaction, we'll certainly see if we can get another look at it, because it was that's a racing driver purely and utterly devastated with his lot. And you had to feel very, very sorry for him, given how much was at stake in that race, how much he's already pushed for a great performance over the course of the weekend as well. And really devastating to see Rimo Kadapik on the sidelines when he could easily have been in the top three. The Estonian has not really put a foot wrong all weekend. And then, unfortunately, his race coming to a very dramatic end before the end of the second lap even. And that was a really dramatic end to the race from him. So now we know that turn 2 is still the pressure cooker we thought it was. A lot of races ending this weekend, I fear, because of how tight it is there. But now we go into the X30 Junior second qualifying heat, and this is qualifying heat for groups C and D, and it will feature Lewis Gilbert and Luca Leistra. The editor of Karting Magazine, Chris McCarthy, told me before this weekend, you've got to keep an eye on Luca Leistra. He's going to be a really strong challenger for this Junior X30 race this weekend. He is a favourite here. He knows the track very well indeed. He's been very well managed, of course, by the Dan Holland Racing team. They're running him a beautiful job this year, and he's going to be a tough one to beat. But if anyone can, it's the man from Dalry in Scotland, Lewis Gilbert, the latest top-talented Scotsman to move his way forward. He leads the championship in Junior X30 at the moment, 4 points ahead of the man 2 rows behind him, the Spaniard Mariembourg, who everybody is talking about as the next Fernando Alonso. He is an absolutely incredible talent on the third row of the grid, and interestingly, he was out testing the new OTK Nassau panel yesterday, the Baguette, and I've noticed that he has reverted back to the old spec of Nassau panel. So he has decided there's no benefit for him at all from his point of view, and he's gone back. I was talking to him about it earlier. I said, what do you think of the Nassau panel, Mari? He said, it doesn't really suit me. I'm not interested in it. We just ran it to see if it was going to be of any benefit. We found out very quickly it's not. It's interesting which drivers have decided to go down this route and which drivers have not. You can see the difference there on the third row, on the second row of the grid. You can see Josh Rowledge of the Strawberry Racing team there on the second row. He raves about this Nassau panel. He says, this is brilliant. I feel much more stable, much better. I'm a more confident, stable driver in the pack. I love it. It really works for me. Alongside him on the grid, Alex Lloyd is another of the drivers for the Dan Holland Racing team, who also, him and Luca Leistra both have said, yep, we like the Nassau panel, we'll keep it, that's fine, no problems there. Marty Boyer lining up on that third row has reverted back to the old one, alongside the Pole Jerzy Spinkovic, who is the teammate to Ollie Pilker, who you saw in the last race. Enzo Juliet and Sam Balota make it a French-speaking fourth row from France and Belgium, respectively, and then Delano Van 't Hoff, who's just come off the back of a victory at PF International in the CIK FIA European Championships last week at PF International, comes here to Mariembourg for a crack at the second round of the IAME European Series. Alongside him on the grid is the Spaniard Victor Pardo, the independent, who is obviously run by his dad Alejandro. Spoke to him very briefly last night. They're very confident about this weekend. They've got a really good feeling. Lois Delbar and Alessandro Tudisca make it a all-Belgian row 6, with Herberts Moore, one of the Spaniards for the FA Racing team, alongside Tom Uzan, who is one of the new boys to the championship this weekend. Then we have Ronan Patrick Hakala, who is the last of the Estonians in this mix. The penultimate of the Estonians in this mix, because his teammate Alex Ivanov is on the row behind him. Erik Alanis Bosch, the Spaniard, is alongside Ronan Patrick Hakala. And then we have William Nicolu, the Frenchman, alongside Alex Ivanov at the back of this grid. Now, interestingly, we've had a beautiful day at the office, but looking overhead, there are clouds coming in. Now, we were told coming into this weekend that if we were going to get rain, it was going to come at about 11 a.m. on Sunday. It was originally due to be scheduled for about sort of 1:30, 2 o'clock. The weather schedule changed because the weather pattern has moved on a little bit, and it was now predicted for 11 o'clock. But this is the most cloud cover we have seen over the circuit at this part of the track, at this part of the weekend. We've not seen this much cloud this early in the day. So that's obviously going to make the track a little bit cooler. The air temperature currently is steady at about 24 degrees Celsius. So that means that the track temperature is going to be about 27, 28. It's bone dry. We haven't had any rain since Thursday, but that is the most cloud we have seen overhead since Thursday evening. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how the drivers cope with that at the start of this X30 Junior race. And obviously here on this fantastic 1,366 metre circuit here in the heart of the southern point of Belgium, it is an absolutely brilliant race weekend we have in prospect for us. Max Meyer taking a dominant victory in the end in that race from Tom Leben, Zach Ripley, Liam McNeely and Josh Ratican. The Brits sweep the board, although of course officially Max Meyer races under a Spanish licence being based over in San Miguel de Salinas. But it's now time to have a look at what their rivals will do in the second race heat groups. Lewis Gilbert and Luca Lystra on that front row of the grid, and it's tough to know who out of the two of them is going to get the victory. But there are 4 or 5 drivers behind them who could snatch it away from them without warning or cooperation. The likes of Josh Rowledge, Alex Lloyd, Marley Boyer, Jerzy Spinkovic, all of them have a great chance to make this happen and make this their own. So they've got to be very careful about how they go into this race. The preparation's got to be strong, and they will want a really steady race from it. Enzo Juliet and Sam Balota on that 5th row of the grid should be worth a watch as well. And there's even a couple of drivers outside the first few rows. Delano Van Toff could be an interesting one. Alessandro Tudiska and Lois Delbart know the circuit very well. Ronan Patrick Hackler is out of position. He could have been a little bit faster on the qualifying session, didn't have it all his own way. So he'll be wanting to make up progress in racecraft. And I noticed that he is one of the drivers who has not gone for... he is one of the drivers who has gone for the new OTK Nassau panel. So an interesting one there. There are 8 laps of the circuit ahead of us, 10.928 kilometres. And it's going to be a very interesting race, this one. Here we go. The championship leader looks to defend his lead as they come out onto the circuit. 2 laps of formation to get us up to speed. Lewis Gilbert and Luca Lystra on the front row. Josh Rowledge and Alex Lloyd on the second. Marty Boyer and Jerzy Spinkovic on the third row. Then Enzo Juliet and Sam Balota with Delano Van Hoff and Victor Pardo La Rosa rounding out the top 10. Then it's Lois Delbauer and Alessandro Tudiska, Herbert Moore and Tom Uzan, Ronald Patrick Hackler and Eric Alanis Bosch, William Nicolou, and it's also going to be Alex Ivanov. So it's going to be a really interesting battle. Let's see how things go in this qualifying heat as the drivers are pushing on for an absolutely spectacular battle. Very intense racing to come from these guys, and they know it. They'll be working very hard in these first couple of laps to build up a bit of a rhythm. So let's see how it works out. For all those of you watching at home on the Telemundi Media live stream, welcome along to you. It's been very, very exciting stuff so far here, and the racing has been very high quality and intense. I'll try and get some of your messages out onto the circuit. I do apologise that we haven't really spoken about it so far, because we've had all sorts of things to talk about that have kept me very well distracted over the first part of the day. But great to see such amazing motorsport from the Royal Automobile Club of Belgium, this fantastic circuit here at the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway as we battle for the victory in X30 Junior. And it's very tough to know who is going to be at the front end of the field. Some great racing and some absolutely majestic battling to come here in the X30 Juniors. We've already seen that heat previously dominated by Max Meyer. In the end, lots of drivers were squabbling away for track position and ended up just giving Max Meyer a clean bill of health out in front. So no complaints from his point of view. Everybody else would have been quite frustrated that they let him get away. But this is going to be a really interesting battle. And for the drivers up at the front end of the field, we're going to see some very intense up-tempo motorsport as these guys battle away. Gilbert and Lystra on the front row of the grid. Rowledge and Lloyd on the second. Boyer and Spinkovic on the third row. Juliet and Balota on the fourth row. Then it's Van Toff, Pedro Losa, Delbar, Tudiska, Moore, Uzan, Hakala, Alanis Bosch, and Nicolou and Ivanov. They get back up to speed on the throttle. This is going to be a slightly fast start. They're backed down a little bit on the top of the corner. And they will have to run in the tram lines. They come back up to speed. It's going to be a fast start, this one. And it is a start. Away we go. Cracking getaway from Gilbert up the front. Rowledge is going to try and get through into second place. But round the outside, there is still challenge from Lystra. And Lloyd and Lystra have nudged each other. They've been compromised. And they've dropped down behind Marty Boyer. Through into fifth position. That is the 4 of Enzo Juliet. And for the lead, Rowledge gets past Lewis Gilbert. Then drifts out wide. Gilbert's back on the inside line. So they're going to battle away into turn 5. Rowledge starts back in behind Gilbert. Terrific start then from Lewis Gilbert and Josh Rowledge. They're through into 1 and 2. Marty Boyer is right there in third position. Boyer makes the move for Rowledge on the inside into second place. Rowledge defends beautifully, and that is an amazing start. Wow, it's already up tempo and full of gusto at the front end of the field. It's Gilbert, Rowledge, Boyer, and then the rest of the field slotting through. Enzo Juliet has dropped down to fifth position once again, because that looks to me like Luca Lystra has got himself back into P4. It's either Lystra or Lloyd. I think that is Lystra. Yes, the slightly shorter of the two of them. So over the line they come once again, and Gilbert's got Rowledge on the inside trying to make the overtaking move into the lead. Rowledge gets the front. Rowledge gets into the lead there in front of Gilbert, Boyer, Lystra, Juliet, Lloyd, Van Hoff, Delbar, Uzan and Balota. Up to the fast corner they come once again, and this is a really good run as Gilbert comes onto the back of Rowledge. Boyer's looking poised. Enzo Juliet tightening up on the fourth place man, Luca Lystra, as he goes for the move up the inside. That's going to be Gilbert for the lead, and he's got it. Beautifully done. Rowledge now has to move to cover Marty Boyer, who's going to come straight back to the inside line and take it. Rowledge on the defensive here, and Boyer trying to get through. This is perfect for Lewis Gilbert. He can smartly disappear out in front if they continue this battle. Fourth position, Luca Lystra, using that local talent to his advantage. Up to sixth position, that is Delano Van Hoff. Van Hoff has come up into P6. Great racing from him as he picks off one by one the drivers around him, and that's put him up into sixth position. Great work so far. Now, where is the man who was in the top 6? That's Jurzik Spinkovic. He's dropped down outside of the top 10. I'm not sure what's happened there. So Spinkovic is trying to fight his way further forward as Lloyd makes the move on the inside there of Lois Delbar to get back up the position. Now, Marty Boyer's lost a place. He's lost a place to Lystra, and now he's lost one to Enzo Juliet. So Boyer down to 5th, Juliet up into P4. The number 4 is P4. So Gilbert's got a bit of a lead now in front of Rowledge. Lystra is in 3rd position. Then it is Enzo Juliet, Marty Boyer, and Delano Van Hoff. This is a great little battle. So they're going to continue to squabble away. The field is actually well condensed in. 7th place is Alex Lloyd now, in front of Lois Delbar, Sam Balota, Tom Uzan. Then it's Hakala, Nicolo, Tudiska, Alanis Bosch, Spinkovic, Ivanov, Pandolosa and Moa. And in fact, Obelts Moa, who's now at the back of the queue, has just set the fastest first sector of anybody. So even though he's currently down in 18th place, he has got a lot of racing still to go. He's not going to finish that low if he's got anything to say about it. End of lap 3. Still going well for Gilbert. Rowledge going with him. They're starting to drop Lystra a little bit. Juliet in 4th place. Delano Van Hoff is through to 5th position in front of Marty Boyer. Boyer's going to have another look, but he's got problems of his own because he's trying to defend from Alex Lloyd, the man he battled with in Valencia. Lloyd goes down the inside, takes the place from Marty Boyer. Boyer is not having the best of starts to his weekend here, and he's got pressure now from Sam Balota in 8th position. The Belgian really starting to hammer it home. Up on the far side, Balota makes the move on the inside of Marty Boyer for 7th position. Boyer resists. Good defense from Boyer. 9th position's up for grabs as well because we've got Lois Delbar, Tom Uzan and Ronan Patrick Hakala having a little bit of a squabble there for 11th position. 12th place further back is Tudiska. Then it's Nicolo, Spinkovic, Alanis Bosch, Ivanov, Pardolorosa and Moa. Great racing in the Junior X30. Second race of the weekend. Gilbert's got Josh Rowledge spitting exhaust fumes, breathing down his neck, going for the move on the inside line if he can get there. Rowledge very fast out of that final turn and giving a little bit of a support to Gilbert to try and get away. They want to drop Lystra and Juliet as much as they possibly can. So a really tough battle this is going to be. So out in front, it is Lewis Gilbert from Josh Rowledge, Luca Lystra, Enzo Juliet, and then in 5th place it is Delano Van Hoff in front of Alex Lloyd and Sam Balota. Marty Boyer down to 8th then. Not the best of starts to the weekend for the Spanish charge. But this is a great run for Lewis Gilbert. He's got pressure though, because there is Rowledge in 2nd, 3rd Lystra, 4th Enzo Juliet. So these 4 continue to try and stretch out the gap. Delano Van Hoff in 5th position. The Dutchman is absolutely determined to close up to the four of them. He wants to be part of this squabble and give himself another crack at the victory. Really exciting stuff through 16 as they continue to charge forward. Sixth position is now Balota. Balota's got past Alex Lloyd and Marty Boyer, and he's up into P6. Great racing thus far. Lloyd now dives down the inside, gets the move. No problem on Sam Balota. Marty Boyer going to try and come back again on the far side on the inside of turn 2. Balota moves to cover. Nicely done. Great racing everywhere you look, and Juliet is going to get committed to Lystra and Balota. Oh, that's Juliet and Lystra have come together. Enzo Juliet up the inside of Luca Lystra, and Lystra is now down the back of the field. Enzo Juliet, he was making the overtaking move, but he was tentative about it. He wasn't sure if the move was going to happen, and then he decided at the last possible moment, okay, I will go for it, but it was too late because already Luca Lystra was turning into the corner, and Enzo Juliet, unfortunately there, really the architect of his own demise, I'm afraid to say. But it's taken Luca Lystra off the circuit with him as a very frustrated Enzo Juliet, battling for third position, is now out of this race. And that promotes Delano Van 't Hoff into third position in front of Sam Balota, Alex Lloyd and Marty Boyer. Now, where has Luca Lystra rejoined? He's 14th position, so that's not great for Lystra. He's got a lot of hard work to do now, and he's about to be passed by Victor Pardo, who gets through on the inside, and so too does Herberts Moa. Well, Lystra gets back through on the inside. Alanis Bosch is not far away, but I have a feeling that Luca Lystra is not going to be sharing any drinks with Enzo Juliet tonight. But out in front, with 2 laps to go, it is still Lewis Gilbert versus Josh Rowledge. They are battling away, and Marty Boyer trying to make up a move or two there and has lost several places. Marty Boyer really struggling today and has fallen away down to 8th position behind Tom Uzan and Lois Del Bar there. So this is a very difficult first race for Marty Boyer. Second in the championship, really struggling. Here comes Gilbert in front of Rowledge as they go into the final lap. Lewis Gilbert looking good in front of Delano Van 't Hoff for the victory here. And now that's Lloyd. Oh, is pitched wide there by Lois Del Bar. Lloyd was holding that inside line further back and got nerfed wide. And that's allowed a lot of drivers through, including his teammate there in the fold. I think that's Alessandro Tedesca who's come through. My apologies. Lloyd almost losing out to the 46 of Ronan Patrick Hackler, but he manages to keep the place in position. Gilbert's got enough space, though, on his rival there, Josh Rowledge. I think this is going to be the man from Dalry picking up another victory in what is turning out to be an amazing season in 2018. 2017, he was doing a cracking job on home soil in the British Championships. Now, the Dalry Wonder is doing an absolutely fantastic job in the European Championship. He led at Soubreeze. He won in Soubreeze. He leads the championship, and he starts his Mariembourg campaign in fantastic style. Second for Rowledge, third for Delano Van 't Hoff. Absolutely terrific. Great results all the way through the field as well. Balota in fourth from Lois Del Bar and Tom Uzan. Alex Lloyd is seventh from Ronan Patrick Hackler. Jerzyk Spinkovic recovers to 9th place. Then in 10th position, it is William Nicolo. Marty Boyer down in 11th position. When did we think we were ever going to see that? But a great result for the drivers out there. Some really impressive performances from the locals. In particular, I was really impressed there with Lois Del Bar. He really dug deep and got himself into the mix there in the top 6. Put on some great performances. So well done to the Belgians in particular. Sam Balota and Lois Del Bar really strong in that race in the top 6 amongst the Royal Guard. Really impressive performances from them. 6th place Tom Uzan from Alex Lloyd, Ronan Patrick Hackler, Jerzyk Spinkovic, William Nicolo, Marty Boyer, Alessandro Tedesca, Alex Ivanov from Luca Lystra way down in 14th. He'll be very, very disappointed with that. Victor Pardo, Herberts Moa and Eric Alanis Bosch, the 3 Spaniards there, with Enzo Juliet unfortunately out of this race. Well, very dramatic, and that's another big name in this race. We lost Rimo Katapic from the first one, and now Luca Lystra down to 14th after contact with that man, Enzo Juliet. Very tricky to call that one, but from the way I looked at that, it looked to me as though, Enzo Juliet had already lined up Luca Lystra for the overtaking move. No problems at all about that one. He'd set him up perfectly well, but diving into that 4th corner on the left-hander, it opens on the way in and then shuts very, very abruptly through the latter part of the apex. And it just looked to me as though he had that line moved nicely, and then just hesitated. It's like, well, I don't know if this move is actually going to work. I'll just give it a moment. No, let's go for it. And by then, Luca Leistra was already turning in, so they were always going to come together. And unfortunately, it was just the impatience and the uncertainty of Enzo Juliet that really caused that accident to happen. It was a real shame because up to that point, both drivers were doing an absolutely superb job, and both of them had the right to be there on the podium. But unfortunately, a racing incident, one of those things. But Enzo Juliet just a little bit nervous about whether that overtaking move was going to work. If he just stuck to his guns, he would have made that, no problem at all. But unfortunately, hesitation and perhaps a little bit of intrepidation, that's what is unfortunately going to get you unstuck. And unfortunately, Enzo Juliet has now paid the price of that, and it's impeded Luca Leistra in the process. Well, there are races still to go, of course. There's plenty of opportunity for them to fight their way further back, but not in X30 Junior next. Now we move to the X30 Minis, which is the class for the drivers who are just getting started in their European international campaigns. And I have to say, the quality of the grid this season has been absolutely stellar, both in Valencia for the Winter Cup and for the first round of the championship 8 weeks ago in Salbris. We had some incredible racing. And I have a feeling that this year we're going to see very, very different performances as Enzo Juliet is brought back on the truck. We're going to see some very interesting performances in each round of the championship from this class, because back in Valencia in February, our non-championship round, the Winter Cup, it was a fight between all of the Spaniards, with Miguel Pero Rozoraga eventually beating Lucas Flusha across the line for the victory in the Winter Cup. Last time out, it was the other Spaniard in the equation, Alejandro Melendez, who found his way through in front of Ruben Volt and Miguel Pero Rozoraga to get the victory. So Alejandro Melendez putting himself right into position there at Salbris to get the win, and drove beautifully to do so ahead of the Estonian Ruben Volt. All of those drivers are in the grid this weekend, with the pole position going to the local driver, number 915, Kimi Abraham, from pole position. So we'll see how well he goes after doing a fantastic job in qualifying. He's definitely earned his place there, and an absolutely terrific display. Alongside him on the front row of the grid there is the Spanish driver Sergio Ruiz, who is there in the 923 and will be a very strong competitor for the victory this time. He's always right up at the front in the top six. A really strong racer, Sergio Ruiz, and we'll see what he does over the course of the weekend. It's a best possible chance to see him take a victory in the final. On the second row of the grid, the man who's been fastest all the way through practice, Nathan Ottink of the Netherlands. He'll be a good one for this weekend as well. The PDB Racing driver really has risen to the plate in the European Championships, and this year he's looking very, very hot indeed. The Spaniard alongside him, who won the Valencia Winter Cup on home soil, Miguel Pero Rozoraga, has had a great start to his 2018 season. Here in Mariembourg, he should be another very cool customer. We'll see how well he goes, but there's plenty of overtaking opportunities for him over the course of this weekend, and he's one of those drivers who will rise to the plate and make it happen. The Estonian in fifth position on the grid for the Dan Holland Racing Team, Ruben Volt. He is one of the most exciting drivers, pound for pound, lap for lap, to watch, because he's just got absolutely no issues with confidence. He knows how to put himself into position. He's very laid back, very cool, doesn't get flustered, doesn't let things get to him. He's very much like Kimi Räikkönen in his resolve. He knows exactly how to get the job done, and he doesn't let things get too much for him. He just does his own thing. He gets on with his own game, and he's very good in a battle. He always knows how to pick off a good overtaking move. Alongside him on the grid is the Spaniard, Lucas Flusha, who was so strong on home soil back in Valencia. We saw him last at Valencia. He wasn't there, unfortunately, for the first round at Salbris. He's back here this weekend, and I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job. He's already put himself up in the top six. Then we've got the two Belgians on the fourth row of the grid, Patrice Kovalevski and Gabriel Bektas, who both know this circuit very well now, who've done a lot of their training here, a lot of their national championship races here. So this is a circuit they'll both know very well. And Gabriel Bektas is new to the championship this weekend, so we'll see how well he goes. Speaking of drivers who are new to the championship this weekend, in ninth position on the grid for the Piers Sexton Racing Team is the Filipino driver William Goh, who's now racing in the British National Cadets Championship as well as here in Europe in the X30 Minis. So he's learning an awful lot about racecraft the hard way, and coming into the European Championships, he's been able to utilise that to give himself some really good performances in the practice and the qualifying. Now we'll see how well he goes in the races themselves. Alongside him on the grid is another of the Belgian locals, course, making his debut in the European Championship in 2018, Amaury Mertens, who did a good job over the course of practice and qualifying. We'll see how well he goes in the races. Amaury Mertens' best performance in practice was a 63.434. And that kind of puts him in or around the lower end of the top 10. So he's about where on the grid he was in practice. So there's a lot to come from him. Slight disappointment for 11th on the grid for Alejandro Melendez, who won the victory last time out at São Briz. And from his point of view, he really wanted to be a bit higher than 11th position on the grid. But there is plenty of time for him to get back up there. And he is, again, one of those drivers who will go for the overtakes and put off a really good performance. Bogdan Ianut-Bria, the Spaniard, who was battling with him big time out in Valencia, the first Winter Cup of the weekend of the season. He was there on the 6th row of the grid alongside Alejandro Melendez for each of these qualifying heats. And then we have the Belgian Angelo Melli, who starts 13th. Unfortunately, his fastest lap was a little bit quicker than Bogdan Ianut-Bria, but unfortunately he has had his times disallowed due to a technical infringement. So how do we predict this one? Well, it's 6 laps, 8.196 kilometres of racing in the X30 Minis. It's a long lap for these guys. 62, 63 seconds is what you can expect to see from these guys. And to be fair, in the early stages of the season, it's been completely unpredictable because we have a good 6 or 7 drivers on this grid who can win the race every single time. You've only got to look at the top 6 drivers on this particular grid, plus Alejandro Melendez. So you're looking at Abraham, Ruiz, Ottink, Piero Lizarraga, Flusacross and Volt, as well as Alejandro Melendez. All 7 of those drivers can win races every single time. So how on earth do you pick one of them to come away from the European Championship as the ultimate victor? It's a very, very tough battle. And the X30 Minis is still not really at full championship status, of course. So these guys are still learning their prowess. But it's really interesting to see. We've seen drivers come from the IAME X30 Mini Series straight up into the juniors and be fast. Maximus Meyer for a start. And it's really interesting to see how the X30 Mini drivers are starting to flow in terms of their progress. Some really, really good talent on this grid in particular, and some of them as young as 9, of course, in the 2018 season, making their international debuts. And I have to say, the Spanish charge has been pretty much the dominant force thus far. It's been Spaniards all the way in the early part of the X30 Mini campaign. But this is the weekend where that could change, particularly when you consider we've got 3 very talented non-Spaniards in the top 6 who have what it takes to crack the whip for Ruiz, Piero Lizarraga and Flusacross. We have Kimi Abraham, pole position, knows this place incredibly well. He'll be a top starter. Nathan Ottink, very fast in practice, very quick in qualifying as well. He's definitely one to keep an eye on. And then Ruben Volt on that 3rd row of the grid, the Estonian, so nearly won the race altogether in São Briz. And consistently, you have to look at Volt as the potential best driver from this entire championship, because while drivers have a good performance in individual races, a bit of a tough opportunity to start there as drivers and mechanics tripping over each other there as they leave the grid. I was going to say that out of all of the sessions so far this season, you have to look to Ruben Volt as the most solid and consistent over the course of the 2 weekends we've had thus far. So it's Abraham and Ruiz, Ottink and Piero Lizarraga, Volt and Flusacross, Kowaleski and Pektas, Go and Mertens, Melendez, Bria and Angelo Melli. So that is your field for this race weekend. And it is going to be interesting to see how the Belgians get on. 5 of them in the field this weekend. Kimi Abraham on pole position. Patrice Kowalewski and Gabriel Bektas further back. And then Amaury Mertens and Angelo Melli. So how they will go on home soil is going to be a very interesting one to observe. But the Spanish charge of Sergio Ruiz in 2nd on the grid, Miguel Pérez Lizarraga in 4th on the grid, Lucas Flusacross in 6th on the grid is going to be very, very interesting. We'll see some fantastic battles from the drivers here this weekend. Kimi Abraham, Sergio Ruiz, Nathan Ottink, Miguel Pérez Lizarraga, Ruben Volt, Lucas Flusacross, Patrice Kowalewski, Gabriel Bergtas, William Go, Amaury Mertens, Alejandro Melendez, Bogdan Ianut-Bria and Angelo Melli. 2 formation laps, of course, of this start, and it's going to be a really spectacular race weekend for the X30 Minis. This first race, full of surprises, I'm sure, because they're all very closely matched indeed, these drivers. Through the qualifying sessions earlier, we can tell you that they put on an absolutely incredible charge in the qualifying heats. We are going to see some great battles, because in terms of qualifying practice, the fastest lap was a 62.581, and Kimi Abraham was only 0.013 faster than Sergio Ruiz. But it's all very chop and changey over the course of the weekend because we've seen a different order for qualifying in the top 6 than we saw in the practice sessions. The fastest of all across practice with Nathan Ottink in front of Lucas Fluschercross, then Volt, Abraham, Ruiz and Pedro Zoraga. So in one lap, you can sense that the Spaniards are right there at the top. But over the course of an entire session, some of the other drivers tend to find a little bit more speed. So it's incredibly open and very evenly spread. So we don't really know who's going to emerge at the end of the season as the top X30 Mini. And the talent this year is better than it's ever been. So it's very, very close. It's very even. We're not entirely sure who's going to have the best of it. So Kimi Abraham, Sergio Ruiz, Nathan Ottink, Miguel Pedro Zalaga, Ruben Volt, Lucas Fluschercross, Patrice Kovalevsky, Gabriel Bektas, William Go, Amaury Mertens, Alejandro Melendez, Bogdan Bria, and Angelo Melli get themselves ready for the first race of the weekend in X30 Mini. We're about to go racing. Up the revs, up the tempo, and it's a go. And away we go, already straight into that first corner. Good start from Abraham. Ottink is through in a second. Volt is through in a third. And that's a cracking start as well from Patrice Kovalevsky. Through in a fourth position. Looks like Sergio Ruiz is immediately trying to come back and get himself up the order. No, that's Miguel Pedro Zoraga, who's made a better start than his teammate Sergio Ruiz. Up the inside, a bit of a challenge as Miguel Pedro Zoraga runs wide. It's going to be 4 wide down that back straight. Goodness me, they're all getting in there together. And who's that that's made his way through into 5th position? I think that is one of the Belgian contingent. So already a very hectic start in X30 Minis as they run around together. But Kimi Abraham leads the way from Nathan Ottink. So it's repeating the practice form. Ruben Volt in 3rd position, the Estonian. 4th place, Miguel Pedro Zalaga, and then the 5th position train is all the way down to last place. But what an incredible start. Kimi Abraham fastest of all in the 1st sector. Nathan Ottink fastest of all in the 2nd sector. So the race is well and truly on. And in 5th position, that looks to me like Gabriel Bektas has come up into 5th place. A cracking start from Bektas as he uses the local knowledge to his advantage and is now there in front of Sergio Ruiz. It's Patrice Kovalevsky in 7th from Go, Martins, Fluschercross, Melendez, Melli and Bria. So the top 3 battling away, and that looks to me like we've had a change for the lead. Yes, we have. It's Nathan Ottink. Right back on the inside, Kimi Abraham. He hasn't got the greatest line off the turn, and Ruben Volt's trying to come round the outside to move into 2nd place. He hasn't been able to get there, but that's definitely turned up the dial for Kimi Abraham. But Nathan Ottink is now your leader. Ottink is leading the way. Up the inside comes Abraham to try and get back on the inside. Ottink defends around the outside. Good move there from the Dutchman. Nathan Ottink is looking good at the moment as he leads the way here for the Netherlands. Ruben Volt in 2nd place. The Estonian, 3rd place, trying to come through on the inside of Kimi Abraham, the Belgian local. So let's see if he gets another opportunity. Good move here from Abraham. He's going to try and get the move on the inside of Ottink, and he's through. Oh, great racing, and now he drifts wide on the exit. Ottink is going to get the switch from Volt. Volt is going to come through to 2nd. Ruben Volt now gets into P2, and he's trying to line up Kimi Abraham, but watch out. Here comes Miguel Pedro Zalaga. 2 laps down, 4 to go. Great race driving. Now here comes Volt up the inside. Volt takes the place. He drifts out wide. Abraham gets him straight back again. So it's Abraham, Volt, Ottink, Pedro Zalaga. Abraham drifts out of the turn. Volt is going to get some cooperation from Ottink and Pedro Zalaga. Then it's Bektas. Up into 6th place now has come Patrice Kovalevsky. So the Belgians definitely going well on home soil. 3 of them in the top 6 now. And up the inside, that's Miguel Pedro Zalaga diving through. Oh, a little bit of contact between Pedro Zalaga and Nathan Ottink. They drift out wide and they're desperately trying to hang on a 3rd position. A couple of drivers going for the move. It's all getting very tight indeed there for the drivers behind us. Drivers making up places wherever they possibly can. Sergio Ruiz trying to make up 2 or 3 places there in the mix. And several of them all being spat out to the sidelines and coming back on the outside line. But the leaders have been given a clean break. And it's Kimi Abraham who now leads from Ruben Volt. 3rd position is Miguel Pedro Zalaga. And in 4th place, that is Nathan Ottink trying to hang on in front of the Belgian talents. And that's William Go. William Go, the Filipinos, come up to 5th place. Now he's going to lose it to Kovalevsky. But William Go is right in there in P6, looking for a great run. Into the hairpin once again, and William Go trying to hassle Kovalevsky for 5th place up the inside. Here he goes. Beautiful. Great work from William Go. He's being looked after this season, of course, by the great Colin Brown, who was once a great rival of Lewis Hamilton's in his junior karting days. So brilliant stuff, and great to see that he's being managed by one of the best in the world for karting discipline and coaching. Halfway down, half to go. Is that Alejandro Melendez trying to come through? No, that's the 931 on the far side. That's Kovalevsky trying to go right round the outside and contact. And off the road goes the 924 and rejoins in front of them. Now, Lucas Fluschercross, he's definitely been pinted off the circuit there, but he then cut across the grass and continued on. So I think Lucas Fluschercross may well get impeded by that. But across the line comes Kimi Abraham. Ruben Volt in second. Miguel Perez Zaraga is third. Otting in fourth. And it's William Go in fifth. And it's anybody's guess for sixth. That's Melendez. Melendez has come through into sixth place. Sergio Ruiz up the inside. And there's a spin at turn one. Now I can't quite see who that is. That looks to me like the 921. No, it's the 931. That is Patrice Kovalevsky. What a shame. Kovalevsky was right up in the top 5 in the early stages of this race, and now he has spun away down into last. That's a shame. And also gone with him there, it looks to me like Gabriel Bektas, who was right up in 5th place on the first lap. That's how close it is in the next 30 minis. From one lap to the next, you have no idea who's going to be at the front end. And the top 3, actually the top 5, look pretty settled. But in 6th place, it's Alejandro Melendez trying to shake off Fluschercross and Ruiz with Angelo Melli, Amaury Mertens and Bogdan Ionut-Bria in the mix. But we're about to go into the final lap, and it's Kimi Abraham versus Ruben Volt. And Ruben Volt has definitely not given up. The Estonian is pushing very hard indeed, and he might get him at turn 2. Final lap. Ruben Volt pushing hard on the back of Kimi Abraham, the Belgian. There's a magnificent squabble for 6th position. We'll try and stay with it as much as we can, but the leading battle is definitely going to intensify now because Ruben Volt is right on the back of Kimi Abraham. Abraham leads it. 2nd is Volt. 3rd is Miguel Perez Zaraga. 4th Otting. 5th William Go. 6th Alejandro Melendez. And there's another off further back. Now I'm not sure who it is that's gone this time. But dropping down the order, that looks like the 924 has gone backwards. That is Lucas Fluschercross. He's gone down the order. But I think Kimi Abraham has done enough to hang on to this position. The next big challenge is going to come for 6th place from Alejandro Melendez. He's trying to shake off the attentions of Sergio Ruiz, who's right up behind him at the moment. But out of the final couple of turns, it is going to be Kimi Abraham on local soil, who knows this place very well, who comes out of the final turn and gets his weekend off to a victorious start. Kimi Abraham has done it in style. Great first race, brilliant first win, really well done from Kimi Abraham. He knows this place so well, and he really made light work of it. And it's a good battle to the line as Lucas Fluschercross comes home in 6th place in front of Alejandro Melendez from Amaury Mertens, Bogdan Ionut-Bria, Sergio Ruiz, Angelo Melli and Gabriel Bektas with Patrice Kovalevsky. He has actually rejoined the race, so he will come through in last position. Oh, it looks like Alejandro Melendez has broken down at the end of the race. He's there at turn 2. So Alejandro Melendez has come to a stop. Something's gone very wrong in the kart. I wonder if that's why he lost 6th position at the dying part of the race. But there is Alejandro Melendez, the winner from Salisbury, having broken down. Well, Kimi Abraham is the winner for the Demo Kart squad. Ruben Volt in 2nd. Miguel Perez Zaraga is 3rd from Nathan Otting and William Go. A great work from the Filipino driver. Lucas Fluschercross is there in 6th place in front of Alejandro Melendez, Amaury Mertens, Bogdan Ionut-Bria, Sergio Ruiz, Angelo Melli, Gabriel Bektas and Patrice Kovalevsky. There is Alejandro Melendez just talking to the officials. It won't work. It won't start. So something has definitely gone wrong for Alejandro Melendez. Fair play to him, though. He has made up great progress. He started 11th and has worked his way up to 7th in that race. So that's good points in the bag for Alejandro Melendez. If he keeps that up, he will get himself a really decent starting position for the pre-final tomorrow. And that's basically what you have to do in this situation. You have to keep making progress as you keep overtaking drivers. But a great bit of driving there from Kimi Abraham. All sorts of pressure from Ruben Volt in the early stages of that race and for most of the battle as well. Interesting battle in the midfield there. A real shame for Nathan Otting that he and Miguel Perez Zaraga got into the battle there up at the far side of the circuit, because that could have turned into a really interesting and very tasty four-way scrap for the battle there for the victory. I'm really, really impressed with William Go. I saw him last week at the British Championships at Lark Hall in Scotland, and he did a fantastic job there in the first time he's ever gone racing in the British Nationals Championships in difficult situations. But I have to say, his performance was really good there in the top 5, and great to see him do so well. So a great performance then from William Goh to get into the top 6. Lucas Flusacross is 6th, although I don't know what they're going to say about that point on the circuit where he traversed the green. I'm not sure whether he's going to get a penalty for that. We'll have to find out. But what a fantastic performance. So this is going to be a really interesting battle, and great racing from Mariembourg once again. Do send us some messages on the live stream. Don't just leave it to Bod Cole, or he'll have all sorts of incredible sycophantic comments to write on YouTube. But very, very appreciated, Bod. Thank you for the comment on the stream there. I'm just doing my job, mate. But it has been really great racing. If you are watching on the Telemundi Media live stream or listening via the Spreaker application, Downforce UK, then do please send us some messages. We'll get your messages out there of great performances from other people. David Jacobs has written in, great job, Kimmy. What a great job that was from Kimmy Abraham, to be fair. He dealt with all of that pressure, soaked it up. He knew the circuit very well, so he was able to get himself into a good position. Ruben Volt just would not back down. Assault after assault after assault on his ability there, and really good driving from Kimmy Abraham to hold on to the pressure cooker and really make it work for him. Now, we've got officials on the start line because, of course, we are now going to get underway for the 4th class here this weekend, the fastest of them all, the X30 Super Shifters. These are the rocket ships of the 2018 IAME X30 European Series, and it's quite funny actually because these guys are really the ones who should be using Nassau panels, the new ones, to channel airflow, because these are the guys who go fast enough. That is João Dias, the Portuguese driver, getting himself ready to go, having made the switch mid-season to a different team. He's under the Spirit Racing banner, and it definitely seems to be giving him some good progress. I think there's 2 karts in the field that have actually got the Nassau panels, the new ones. That is Barry Pullinger for Dan Holland Racing, who will start on the 2nd row of the grid, the British driver, and then alongside him, or just in behind him actually, is going to be the Spaniard Carlos Leon, who will also run with the from his point of view, it's not an improvement, actually. He did say to me earlier, I don't really notice a difference. Again, he's one of those drivers who hasn't really noticed anything particularly special about the Nassau panel. But then when it comes into great racing, it's going to be, we're going to see what happens. Strawberry Gaming has just messaged on YouTube. Great commentating, taking some tips. Kai Bacchini, that is, who wrote in. Anybody who was listening at Lark Hall last weekend knows he doesn't need any tips. He's got plenty. He was joining me in the commentary box last weekend. I think he might be the youngest motor racing commentator in the world, aged 10. As well as a racing driver. But Kai Bacchini, that's a name you want to keep an eye on for commentary greatness. Hopefully he'll be winning the British Grand Prix one day rather than commentating on it. But if he doesn't make it, then there's always a place for him in racing. Good start to his career there, both on and off the track. Super Shifters next up, though. And this is how close it is in X30 Super Shifters. It is dead level in qualifying between the top 2 men. 53.787 seconds for both the drivers on the front row of the grid. For the pole sitter, Sten Dorian Pirimagi, and championship leader, and his main rival, Kevin Luddy of Switzerland. That is how close it is. They set exactly the same lap time to the 1,000th of a second. It is that close. Kasper Koržius, the Estonian, on the 2nd row of the grid, in there behind Sten Dorian Pirimagi, just chatting to his countrymen up there at the front. Barry Pullinger, the Brit, is going to be flying the flag for the Union Jack Brigade in the 2nd row of the grid. Nico Rohrwasser and Carlos Leon on that 2nd row of the grid. Thierry Del Rey, the local man, the Mach 1 superstar, and the Belgian wonder from Heers is there on the 4th row of the grid alongside Philip Siever. Then we have Michel Biffiger and the Belgian local Doriano Marchucci making his debut in the championship in 2018. Lionel Chalet and João Dias are on that 6th row of the starting grid. So, really exciting stuff thus far, and a great battle. We're going to see some absolutely terrific racing over the course of the weekend from these guys. It is going to be the fastest class, whatever happens. That's not complicated to work out because these guys are absolutely astonishing to observe. Really are the fastest brigade. The gearbox karting world, I'm absolutely head over heels in love with it, and I've been addicted to watching gearbox karts ever since I made my first ever commentary on gearbox karting all the way back at Silverstone in 2012. For the British National Superkart Championships. It is an amazing discipline, gearbox karting, and anybody who doubts it as an absolutely astonishing discipline of motor racing, clearly has a bag over their face, because it really is astonishing to watch. They are an amazing discipline. There may not be many karts on the grid, but in terms of the fire, in terms of the noise, in terms of the fever and the noise and the smell and the atmosphere, it's going to be very, very tough to find anything that is as comparable. Absolutely terrific racing and an amazing battle in front of us, especially when you consider that all of the drivers are wanting to see Stentori and Peremarghi potentially be toppled from the lead of the championship. But it's going to be so difficult to get there. But if anybody's going to manage it, it's Kevin Ludi, who gets a handshake from his rivals there and his teammates as well. Good to see that the camaraderie in this grid in particular, compared to some of the other championships, is very matey, very brotherly. It's a good field of drivers. They all respect each other. There's no real enemies in this grid. They all get on very well with each other. And it's going to be very, very exciting to see these guys battle it out. So we're going to see some absolutely terrific racing and terrific battles. So let's see how the drivers get on as they go off into the distance for their first race of the weekend. Now, that grid is obviously going to shuffle and change in the middle of the pack as the racing continues, but I think you're going to really, really get excited about the fact that these guys have got some absolutely terrific dicing to come. Peremarghi and Ludi, when you're separated by nothing in qualifying, down to the 1,000th of a second, you know it's something pretty special. And these guys have already been battling a few times this season, know what to expect of each other, and know how tough it's going to be. So we'll see plenty of action. If you've just joined us, hello and welcome to the Mariembourg circuit in Belgium. It's the second round of the 2018 IAME X30 European Karting Series, and we've seen some incredible battles. 8 weeks ago, the first round of the championship in Salbris in France. We're here in Mariembourg in Belgium, just over the French border, actually. We're only about half an hour away from France itself, and we're just a stone's throw away from the former venue of the Grand Prix de Frontières on the streets of Chimay, where about 64 years ago, the Crown Prince of Thailand, Prince Bira, took victory in the last ever Formula One race to be held on the streets of Chimay. The last winner of the Grand Prix de Frontières, when it was a Formula 3 race, was the late, great David Purley back in 1972. An amazing battle ahead of us here in the X30 Super Shifters, and this is motorsport country in Belgium. Lots of amazing talent has come from this part of the world. Any top quality Belgian racer you can think of has probably started their motor racing career in this particular part of the world. And on this particular circuit as well, Stoffel van Dorn, current McLaren Formula 1 driver, as teammate to Fernando Alonso, would have raced here on his way up the ladder, as many other Belgians do, of course. You've only got to look at the likes of Laurens van Tor, Maxime Martin, and various other top-name drivers from Belgium who have gone on to worldwide renown. They will have started their racing career right here on the Mariembourg circuit, as will a lot of the French and German contingent, of course. The Benelux Championship, one of the most popular regional championships in Europe, and a lot of people come over here to race it, including a lot of Brits, actually, because it's not too far away for them to drive, and I do mean drive. Not a lot of them will take the plane, because they can just hop on a ferry and come over here to come racing. But this is the one for the Super Shifters, the first race of the weekend. There are 3 qualifying heats, and they will start from the same qualifying positions in each of them. This is about a golf score now. You've got to try and score as few points as possible. So if you win the race, you score nothing. If you come second, you score 2. Third, you get 3. Fourth, you get 4. Fifth, you get 5th, and so on and so on and so on. And it's the golf score that takes you to the championship points tally. You only score championship points in the pre-final and the final. Over the course of the qualifying heats, you set the grid by getting as few points as possible. Peremarghi and Ludi on the front row. Corjus and Barry Pullinger on the second row. Robasser and Carlos Leon on the third row from Del Rey and Siva. Then it is Bifiga, Doriano, Chalet and Diaz. So Doriano Marchichi, the Belgian there, in 10th on the grid, hoping that the local experience can definitely help him out a little bit. And Deacon O'Sullivan writes on the YouTube screen, Deacon O'Sullivan, good luck, Nico Robasser. And, of course, Robasser is one of those drivers who has a great chance here, having already started his 2018 season campaign in fine fettle. Don't forget, just 3 months ago, he was the victor in the IAME Winter Cup at the Lucas Guerrero International Circuit in Valencia. So these guys pounding their way around the circuit for this first of 2 formation laps. as they pound around in position, and the next time around they will not get a rolling start. They will come into their grid positions on the standing start grid, and it is spectacular, and they will do so right under my feet. Absolutely amazing as these guys will get themselves underway for the rocket ship getaway. It is not a long stretch into the first corner for these guys either, so the guys on the 4th, 5th and 6th rows of the grid will actually have a higher speed getting into that first corner than the leaders, so we should see quite a few battles on this opening lap as drivers will have wound up the rhythm a little bit easier at the back of the grid than they will have at the front. That makes it a really interesting battle. You can see a couple of the drivers who have chosen to go for the new Nassau panels. Carlos Leon's definitely got it on the FA Racing Spain kart. I wonder actually if I'm trying to figure out if Barry Pullinger has it on his, or if he has reverted back to the old style. We'll find out as they come to the grid, because they've been testing these all weekend, and some people in the junior and senior X30 brigade say, well, I quite like it. It looks pretty cool. It's a new bit of technology. I like it. Others, there it is. That is the new Nassau panel. You can see at the front there, there's Carlos Leon's car. It's basically a bit like a hot dog bun, because it's got a massive groove up the middle of it, and I put my arm in that groove. It is an arm's width, so that channels a lot of air as they come through. Barry Pullinger's got it on his, so too has Carlos Leon on his. I think they're the only two karts in the field that are running the new Nassau panel. So let's see if it works in race trim. Penimaghi, Ludi, Corjus, Pullinger, Rohrwasser, Leon, Del Rey, Seaver, Biffiger, Marchucci, Chalet and Diaz. They're in position on the starting grid. All of them now on their grid positions as the 6-2-3 gets into place. Oh, he's overshot there a little bit, so that's not going to be the easiest of starts there for Doriano Marchucci, but the race will get underway regardless. Oh, a terrible start for the 6-12 there. He's jumped the start. Goodness me, a jump start there for the 6-12 of Philip Seaver. Either that or it was the most perfect start in history. But Philip Seaver launching up the middle of everybody and getting through into... Was that the lead of the race as Philip Seaver got into? No, it's third position. So we've got Joao Diaz who didn't get away at all. Now he has got going. I'd love to see a replay of that start. Goodness me, I'm not sure if that was on time or not, but Philip Seaver slots into third position behind Penimaghi, who is in second place, and the new race leader, Kevin Ludi. So Ludi leads, Penimaghi second, Seaver for the moment in third position. Was that a jump start or was that the dream start? I'm not sure. Couldn't quite tell from where I was, actually. I couldn't quite see the lights for the glare of the sun, so I'm not sure if that was a jump start or whether that was just about the most perfect start you're ever going to get in this category. We'll have another look on a replay, hopefully. Fourth position is Thierry Del Rey, the 622. They've been working on the kart overnight, and he is up in a fourth position. He knows this place incredibly well. He's having a look. Philip Seaver already in defensive mode. Fifth position, you've got to wait a little bit to go and catch them, but in fifth place, there is a good battle shaping up as well, and it's led by Nico Rohrwasser in front of Kasper Corjus. So Rohrwasser, Corjus, then it is Barry Pullinger, Biffiger, Chalet, Marchucci, Carlos Leon and Joao Diaz. But out in front, it is now Kevin Ludi breaking away from Stentori and Penimaghi. This is a turn-up for the books. Stentori and Penimaghi dominated at Saint-Brieuc every single race. Kevin Ludi might just have the measure of him here at Mariembourg, and the pendulum will swing towards him as this championship really cooks up. Fastest in the first sector, Barry Pullinger for Dan Holland Racing, doing a great job there, the Brit, as he tries to work his way forward. In seventh position at the moment, here comes Del Rey. Sweet move into the first corner. Thierry Del Rey puts the Mach 1 up to Mach 3 as he goes into P3. Brilliant stuff there. Who needs the sound barrier when you've got the Mach 1 of Thierry Del Rey, eh? Brilliant stuff. Fifth position, 6:15 in fifth place. That's Nico Rohrwasser, the winner of the Valencia Winter Cup. And Kasper Corjus there trying to hold on in front of Barry Pullinger. In fact, no, Pullinger has passed Corjus. So Pullinger is now into P6 in front of Kasper Corjus. And then in eighth position, we have Michel Biffiger in front of Lionel Chalet, Carlos Leon, Doriano Marchucci, and Joao Diaz. Carlos Leon, fastest of all in the first sector. Now the FA Racing driver starting to make progress as he moves his way further forward. They come off the turn once again, and Kevin Ludi has got steady, and Dorian Penimaghi very much marked at the moment. Penimaghi's still trying to get after him. He's not given up. 8 laps to go. A long way to go in this race. It's a 11-lap race, the Super Shifter Heat. 15.026 kilometres around this Mariembourg circuit, and they will push hard throughout. Brilliant stuff. Really exciting racing and great action. That's what we come to see. So let's see as the battle goes. Here they come once again. The drivers continue to race as they come through on the far side. This is a great run for Stentorian Pirimagi in second, but he could be even better. If he can catch up with Kevin Luddy, he will get even further up the road. So, Luddy, Pirimagi, Del Rey, Siva, Rohrwasser, Pullinger, Korjus, Biffiger. Now, I'm not seeing any action against Philip Siva, so maybe that was the most perfect start in history. I'd quite like to see it again. Maybe at the end of the race we'll get another look at it. But that was one heck of a start from Philip Siva. And I think because they're not reacting to it, the officials are not immediately saying, oh, jump start. There's not even an investigation into it. So I think Philip Siva may just have pulled off the start of the century. Stentorian Pirimagi is second, but Philip Siva is in fourth place now, having leapt forward initially to third. He is there in fourth position behind Thierry Del Rey. It's the Swiss driver Kevin Luddy who leads the way from the Estonian Stentorian Pirimagi, and Thierry Del Rey of Belgium in third position from Siva, Rohrwasser, Pullinger, Korjus, Biffiger, Chalet, Leon, Marchucci and Diaz. That's the order at the moment, and all 12 of them are still running, albeit Joao Diaz is quite considerably far back from the rest of the field. In fact, I think Joao Diaz has now actually pulled off the circuit and retired from the race. That is a real shame. So I think Joao Diaz is now out of it. Further back, we've got an interesting battle as Carlos Leon moves to pull out in front of Lionel Chalet and has not been able to do so. We need to keep an eye on this battle, really, because Lionel Chalet is desperately trying to hang on in front of Carlos Leon, who is pushing him big time into the apexes further down the order. So Nico Rohrwasser is trying to close up on his teammate Philip Siva. Carlos Leon has now got past Lionel Chalet. Chalet has dropped a long way back off the back of Carlos Leon as a result of that move. But Joao Diaz, the Portuguese star for Spirit Racing, is out of the race, I'm afraid to say. So whatever problems it was that was holding him up at the start have clearly proved to be terminal. So he is out of this one. So Kevin Luddy, Stentorian Pirimagi, Thierry Del Rey. That's your top three at the moment. The fastest in the first sector is Thierry Del Rey. The fastest in the second sector is Stentorian Pirimagi. Look how close Pirimigi's getting to Kevin Luddy now as we got 5 laps to go. He's breathing down his neck. He's a lot closer to Luddy than he has been since the start of this race, really. So Dorian Pirimagi pushing hard here. The Estonian is an absolute pressure cooker for Kevin Luddy to have to deal with, but these two know each other of old. Kevin Luddy versus Stentorian Pirimagi is an age-old battle in the IAME European Series. They've had some amazing battles together, and it looks like 2018 is going to be absolutely no exception. Kevin Luddy versus Stentorian Pirimagi. Pirimagi definitely getting closer. But Kevin Luddy, the Swiss driver, still very much in there in the fight. Third position, Thierry Del Rey, the Belgian. They come off the turn, down the drop, up towards 16. Square right, back on the power. Right, left, right. Back onto the home straight. You're flat on the throttle all the way through there. Quick blip of the brakes and turn in. Back on the power through turn 1. Back up the short stretch towards turn 2. That's where we've seen most of the carnage this weekend thus far in the races. But we've only had the first heats from each championship so far. But we've already seen 2 big names fall at that point of the circuit, effectively, between turns 2 and 4. And that was Rimo Kanapik in the very first heat of the Junior X30s being spat out in the battle after a bit of contact with Daniel Gregor. And Rimo Kanapik's race ending at the grass verge on the run to turn 3. And then, of course, in the previous Junior X30 race, we lost another big name after a very intense battle came to naught. And that was Enzo Juliet after colliding with Luca Leistra. And I think both men are going to be very happy about the fact that they're not racing each other in the next heat because they've been separated into different groups. Here we go. 3 laps to go. And now Kevin Luddy's put on the power back again. But Thierry Del Rey is not done. In third position, he's closing up on Stentorian Pirimagi. So we've got the leader, Kevin Luddy, being chased by the Estonian, Stentorian Pirimagi, the number 637, in there in second place. Third position, though, the Belgian on home soil, Thierry Del Rey. He wants to fly the Belgian flag aloft here this weekend, here in Mariembourg, and he wants to do it going away. So it looks as though there's going to be at least one podium runner from Belgium this weekend if things stay as they are here in the Super Shifters. But the fourth place battle behind these guys is very tight because we've now got Siva, Rohrwasser, Pullinger and Korjus all in together. Looks to me as though Barry Pullinger's caught right up to the back of Rohrwasser, but Seaver is not giving him a lot of opportunities to come by at the moment. So Seaver hanging on in 4th position. Great racing. Absolutely terrific. So let's see how this goes. The fastest lap of the race. On the last lap, Stendorian Pidimargi. He is absolutely desperate to close up on Kevin Luddy. 2 laps to go. Into the left-hander. Is this going to work for Kevin Luddy and Stendorian Pidimargi? In through the left-hander. Up the drive once again to turn 6. But things going beautifully well for Stendorian Pidimargi as he leads the way in the battle after Kevin Luddy. So this is going to be an interesting bit of battling between the two of them. And still they battle away. With 2 laps to go, can Stendorian Pidimargi catch Kevin Luddy and make the overtaking move? The answer, I would say, at the moment is no. He's not quite close enough. So it looks to me as though the 2 points are going to go to Stendorian Pidimargi. Kevin Luddy is going to have a 0 points mark on his record going into the qualifying heats. In the qualifying heats, of course, you score as few points as possible, just like in golf. And then you score the actual championship points in the pre-final and final. Last lap. And Stendorian Pidimargi is doing his best to close up on the Swiss ace, Kevin Luddy. But I think it's all done and dusted. Thierry Del Rey in 3rd position. 4th is now Seaver. And up to 5th has come Barry Pullinger. He's got Nico Rohrwasser. So Barry Pullinger in the Dan Holland Racing Kart has brought himself up into P5. And I note that Carlos Leon is now there on the back of his closest challenger. That is Michel Bifiger. But it's going to be a victory for Kevin Luddy. He's going to be pushed all the way, just in case, by Stendorian Pidimargi and Thierry Del Rey, who are close, but just not close enough. A quick check over the shoulder from Kevin Luddy. Is he on the inside of me? No, he's not. So I'll power on the throttle, through the left, through the right, and over the line. And it's Kevin Luddy who takes the first win of the weekend. 2nd for Stendorian Pidimargi. Thierry Del Rey is 3rd. Then it is Philip Seaver with the most incredible start I've ever seen. And certainly no warnings for it, so it is absolutely spot on the mark. 5th position for Barry Pullinger of Great Britain. Then it is Nico Rohrwasser from Casper Corjus, Carlos Leon, Michel Bifiger. Oh, Carlos Leon's finished, but he's come off the circuit. Now, where is that? That's at turn 1. Now, was there contact on the way into turn 1? Because he seems to have come off on the way to the first corner. Now, that's really obscure. I didn't see anything happen between Carlos Leon and Michel Bifiger as they came across the line. They were separated by 0.093 at the line, so they must have been side by side, or at least battling away with each other. But Leon has come off the circuit at turn 1 just after the finish line. So that's a really bizarre end to the race, but Luddy wins it from Pidimargi, Del Rey, Seaver, Pullinger, Rohrwasser, Corjus, Carlos Leon, Michel Bifiger, Lionel Chalet, Doriano Marchucci, and Joao Diaz. There is Carlos Leon, having brought the kart off the circuit, and they're going to need to recover that. So I wonder if there was a camera down there who saw what happened initially to Carlos Leon, if we can maybe get a look at it. But I didn't see anything untoward because I was too busy looking at the timing screens. But one I'd quite like to see again, actually, is that incredible start. Clearly it was legal because there was no investigation during the race. Philip Seaver just got the perfect start. And obviously it's been discussed a little bit on the YouTube stream, but you are allowed to leave the tram lines when the poleman has crossed the line. Oh, that was the initial rule, but the European rules change. As soon as the lights go out, you can go where you want. So in terms of the timing of it, I guess it was pretty much spot on. And we've seen that in the past when you just happen to put your foot down when the lights go. You just sense it. And Philip Seaver, absolutely perfect getaway by the look of it. We'll try and see if we've got a replay of it maybe, because that was absolutely astonishing. And I'd quite like to see it again, because I was looking out the window at it, not on the television screen. So I didn't really notice the lights, because there was the glare of the sun. But what a getaway from Philip Seaver. It's just about as good as it's ever going to get. Well, that is the first round of heats for the second round of the IAME European Series here in Mariembourg. It is the second round of heats to come now. And we've obviously had an incredible run thus far from all of the drivers who have pushed very hard indeed. We now have some senior races before we have a breather. So we'll have qualifying heat 3 and 4 for the seniors before we take a short break. And we'll get back under racing once again in the qualifying Heat 5 for the seniors, race 9 of the weekend, which will be at about 3:20 local time. So we've got 2 more races to come on the stream before we hit the pause button and you go and get yourself some lunch back home or wherever it is you are, or if you're here at the circuit at Mariembourg, as we are live in 3 parts. We are live on the PA here at the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway for everybody here watching in the stands. We're also on the Downforce UK application Spreaker, and that is obviously for Apple and Android devices. You can download the Spreaker application for free and listen to all the coverage and all the other motorsport content that you'll find on the Downforce UK channel. But of course, we are live here on Telemundi Media as well on the YouTube live stream. Do type away your messages and your comments. We'll try and read out as much as we can, particularly if they are interesting or complimentary. And if there's anybody watching at home who's supporting a particular driver or rooting for them, then do please message us. Over the course of the weekend, we are trying to get a few of the drivers up here to the commentary box to talk to us a little bit about what has been happening over the course of their weekend or what we can hope to see. I urge you to go onto the IAME European Series social media page this weekend, because it's not going to be long before we show you the very nice pint in the paddock section we did last night. Myself and 5 of the team personnel here in the paddock, P1 Racing's Thomas and Tom and Nicholas, and then we had Ollie from Evolution. We also had Piers Sexton himself of Piers Sexton Racing and Nick De Bruyn of the PDB Racing Squad. It was a very nice little friendly chat last night, and we talked about everything from Nassau panels to Marvel superheroes. Yeah, you may not think there's a link. Trust me, when you go and watch it, you'll understand. Okay, so we get ourselves into the mix for the X30 senior heat then, as the drivers will get themselves underway once more. It's been a very interesting day at the office for the seniors. A lot of interesting developments as things have progressed. So we'll see how things continue to work out. But it is going to be Nicolas Picot and William Godefroid on that front row of the starting grid, with Ruben Moya and Niels Keulen in position. There's going to be some great racing from them. From the front row of the grid, the Spaniard Ruben Moya and the Dutchman Niels Keulen will be in the mix there as well. Jordan Brown-Nutley and Philip Vava on the third row of the grid, with Louis Westover and Simon Henrad on the fourth row of the grid, with Masatora Wada of Japan and Toni Harainen of Finland in the mix there as well. Some very interesting races to come from these guys as they battle away for position. I have a feeling that this race could end up being another one where 1 or 2 drivers get spat out to the sidelines at turn 2. It's very hard to keep these guys moving smoothly through these first couple of laps, because the first corner, there's enough space for everybody to get through. But then you're on the adrenaline flow. You want to make up a couple of places. You'll dive for the inside line, and 2 or 3 more drivers will have exactly the same thing on their minds, so they won't necessarily come away from it with success. Well, those clouds that were starting to hover over the circuit are now well and truly gone again. So it was just a light threat of something nasty around the circuit. Nothing more. And good to see that the battle that we've got now in front of us is not going to be unsettled by bad weather. Just overlooking the majestic quarry in the distance overhead. Beautiful part of the world, this. My first ever time to Belgium. And I have to say, I've fallen head over heels in love with the country already. It's a wonderful atmosphere, great people, great atmosphere. The Royal Automobile Club of Belgium have been absolutely stupendous in putting on a magnificent and fantastic meeting. It's been safe and sound all the way through. Well organised, very well drilled and well-oiled organisation. And they've been putting on some fantastic action for us all weekend long. Really, really glad we're into the nuts and bolts of the meeting, though, as in we go for the Senior X30. And interestingly, Nicolas Picot has the new Nassau panel. William Godefroid does not. So here's your grid in full. It is Nicolas Picot and William Godefroid on the front row from Ruben Moya and Niels Keulen. Jordan Brown-Nutley is on the third row with Philip Vava from Louis Westover and Simon Henrad. Masatora Wada and Toni Harainen on the fifth row from Stefan Planchamp and Camille Proteau. Sebastien Degrand and Danny Bunshu from Levi Lintucanto and Mark Kimber. Way down on the eighth row, but he will charge forward after his win in Salisbury 8 weeks ago. Jana Goodvarts and Rashid Ghanem on the ninth row. Then Milan Petelet and Thomas Fleming on the 10th row. It's Romain Leroux through, alongside Rufus Hunt for Fusion Motorsport in the 11th row, Rafael Villagomez and Anthony Moonen, and then Thanapongpang Sutumnu, who was 10th last year in the championship, alongside the young Brit Harry Barlow, who of course was the runner-up in the Biralat Junior Series last year and took his first podium in the 125cc's as a senior last week at Clay Pigeon in Dorset in Great Britain. Manel Golofratorna alongside Leonardo Paniautu on the 14th row of the grid, and then it is Max Pilker in the 301 at the back. 2 rolling laps around the circuit, so the drivers get a bit of exploratory distance in this field. Senior X30, so difficult to predict this season because there are so many top drivers going to battle. Great to see your comments coming through. Arthur Del Marmol says, well done, Mr. Chalet. Well, yes, he's done a good job so far. There's a good battle there from Lionel Chalet in the last race for the Super Shifters. Bod Cole writes on the stream, Hoay, Mr. Barlow, let's see what you can do. He's done a good job there to put himself into position, considering he really struggled in practice yesterday to get the kart up to speed. But if you get a lap time within 56 seconds in these karts on this circuit, you are doing a good job, and he has done just that over the course of the sessions. To be more precise, Harry Barlow's lap times in the practice sessions, for those now that we're talking about it, we did a 56.915 in the third qualifying practice session, and that is where he put himself 65th of the 70 drivers in the qualifying session. Not bad considering this is his first ever campaign in Europe. For a lot of these drivers, they've been racing in Europe for a few years now, so they know the form by now, but at the same time, it's not very easy to predict how it's going to play out, and it hasn't been easy to predict it as the weekend has traversed. So we have a lot to talk about in this one. But from the front, it will be Pico and Godefroid. Godefroid in particular is one to watch because he'll know this circuit very well. Ruben Moya and Niels Kuhlen, Jordan Brown-Nutley and Philip Vava, the Spaniard, who always seems to be in there in the mix, Philip Vava. Good to see him in the ebb and flow. Jordan Brown-Nutley, of course, was the second fastest driver of anybody through the practice sessions on Friday and Saturday. So really interesting to see how he's going to go. Ruben Moya a little bit hasty to get off to the mark, and that's because in his first race he didn't really have it go his own way. He was fast initially and then it all sort of tumbled away, so hopefully it's going to be a better start for him. Pico, Godefroid, Moya, Kuhlen, Brown-Nutley, Vava, Westover, Hunrad, Wada and Harainen. Let's see how they go in this second of their heats today. Qualifying heat AE in the X30 Senior, track temperature 24 degrees. It's going to be quite a slow start this time. They are really slowing the pace down the tram lines, but now the revs are rising. This is going to be an exciting start. Lights are out, and let's race at Mariembourg once again. They bang wheels into turn one, the two front men, and that's an absolute disaster from Godefroid, and there's a big shunt further back. A big shunt and into the barriers at turn one. That is the 215 that's gone into the barriers there. And that is a big one. That's Tony Harainen, the Finn, who has now recovered. He went in with somebody else. I couldn't quite see who it was. I'll pick it up in a moment. But a problem for the 319 at the start. Anthony Moonen, he dropped back as well. And who is it that went off with Harainen? It was the 221 that went off. Now that is Simon Henrad. So two big names in the top 10 there. Henrad and Harainen, who went off at the first corner, and how Harainen is still going with the damage to the barriers is absolutely incredible. So it's not yellow flags there anymore because Harainen has got himself going again, but out in front, it is still the 296 of Nicolas Pico. Ruben Moya has come through to second place, and into third has come Jordan Brown-Nutley on the 202. So a really good start to the race for those guys on the inside line. Then it's the 314 of Niels Kuhlen from Westover, Godefroid, Wada, Planchamp. Now, where on earth has Godefroid lost all that time? Because it looked like he was drifting wide at turn one, and then drifting out of turn two, and we got somebody off at turn two. They're losing about 5 places. It's one of the KR Sport machines, I think. It's definitely a Cosmic chassis. I'll try and find out who it is. It's the 310 that's dropped down the order several places there. Now that is Danny Bunshu, the Swiss driver. So Danny Bunshu losing a good 6 places there by running wide. Real shame from his point of view, but look at the lead squabble. Pico, Moya, Brown-Nutley and Niels Kuhlen, who's joined the back of the queue. Kuhlen trying to find a way up the inside. Hasn't been able to get there yet, but Niels Kuhlen definitely pushing. Westover's in 5th, the man from Colchester in Essex. Godefroid in 6th place from Wada, Planchamp, Vava and Lintucanto. The Finn is right there in 10th position. Sebastian Degron, Camille Pruteau. Then it's Bunshu. Well, it was. Bunshu's now dropped quite a long way down the order. And there goes Brown-Nutley for second. Brown-Nutley gets through in a second place on the inside of Ruben Moya and gets through. No problem at all there. So a change for second place as Jordan Brown-Nutley now sets off in pursuit of Nicolas Pico and into third place. That's a great move from Niels Keulen. The Dutchman through there into third place on fourth place man Ruben Moyer, who slips back down the order once again. He's really struggling in this early phase of the race. Some good overtaking moves in the mid-pack there as a lot of drivers working their way through. But it's Pico from Brown-Nutley, Keulen, Moyer, Godefroid, Westover, Wada, Favre, Planchamp and Lintucanto. Then it's De Grand, Pruteau, Via Gomez, Petelet, Mark Kimber 15th now, Gouvarts, Galofratone, Ganem, Bunshu, Hunt, Paniotu, Barlow. Then it's Satumnu and Enrod Simon and Anthony Moonen with Tony Harainen out of the race with damage. Thomas Fleming's gone a long way down the order as well. Not sure what's happened to Fleming. And Romain Leroux out of the race. Max Pilker didn't take the start. Here goes Brown-Nutley for the lead. And he's there. He runs on the curb. And that's going to allow Niels Keulen to come through into second place. Niels Keulen into second position. Brown-Nutley gets the lead. Niels Keulen through to second. Third place is still Nicolas Pico. Now Keulen gets the lead on Brown-Nutley. Great bit of driving there from Niels Keulen from third to first in two corners. Beautifully done and well set up. So a good bit of driving there from the Dutchman. Niels Keulen goes to the head of the field. Nicolas Pico down to third. In behind Jordan Brown-Nutley. And then in fourth place is still Ruben Moyer. Now William Godefroid has made his way back up the order. Godefroid is now in fifth place. So let's see if the Belgian, with that local knowledge of this circuit, can really start to get into the top four once more, because he was on that front row of the grid, don't forget, from the start. So Godefroid, one of the top drivers on this circuit at the moment in Senior X30. So let's keep an eye on how much progress he makes once again. Here they come. Top four in qualifying, Godefroid, out of all of these 70 drivers. So let's see what sort of progress he can make around the track once more. Up at a fifth place, tightening up on Moyer. Sixth is Varva now, in front of Louis Westover. Then it's the Japanese driver, Masatora Wada, is up the inside for second. Comes Nicolas Pico, and that has given Jordan Brown-Nutley a chance to come back through on the inside. And Jordan Brown-Nutley is absolutely determined to get through. They both run wide. Brown-Nutley and the man in second place, Nicolas Pico, run wide there. Pico was adamant to Jordan Brown-Nutley, waving, come on, we need to catch that man out front. Niels Keulen, Brown-Nutley wasn't listening. He went for the overtaking move. They both drifted out wide, and they've both been severely compromised. Now that has put William Godefroid into second place, because at the same time as that happened, he made the move on Ruben Moyer to get up into second place. So great racing there. And there's a black flag. It's for Tom Fleming. So Tom Fleming has been given the black flag. I'm not entirely sure what that's for. Now, whether he's caused an incident or whether he's got a mechanical problem, I can't quite tell. But Tom Fleming, who is down in 25th position at the moment, he's a lap down, I think, as well. So Fleming, unfortunately, is going to receive the black flag this time by. So that's a real shame for Fleming. And the BMR driver is now going to have to pull his kart out of the race and into the pits. That's a real shame. Meanwhile, the battle in second and third position, really interesting as Godefroid drives clear and leaves Ruben Moyer and Philip Varva to battle for third place, with Varva now in front in the 250. So Varva's got past Moyer. Then it is Westover, Brown-Nutley, Lintucanto, Planchamp, Wada, De Grand and Nicolas Pico in the 11th position. Fastest man on the track at the moment, though, is Danny Bunshu. Fastest in the first sector, fastest in the second sector. So Danny Bunshu trying to work his way forward. Through all of this, Mark Kimber is up into 14th place. So he is making progress. Not as fast as he'd like, ultimately, but he is getting there. He makes another nice move up the inside there. So that's Kimber through into 13th place on the Mexican Rafael Villa Gomez, who gets him straight back again. And through past both of them goes Milan Petelet. So great battles there in the mid-pack. Unfortunately, Kimber is not really where he wants to be at the moment. Scrapping away with Villa Gomez is not good enough from his point of view. But he's doing the best he can. Danny Bunshu, the new fastest lap of the race. And fastest in all of those sectors. Although the new fastest first sector comes in from Nicolas Pico. Great racing at the front. Niels Keulen still leads. Second is William Godefroid, and he's dropped the third place battle. These guys have got to unite. They've got to work together. Ruben Moyer back in front of Philip Varva. They've got 4 laps to go at the end of this one. If they want to win this race, they have got to cooperate. Because there's a big lead for Niels Keulen. Second is William Godefroid, having got his way back into the top 2. And now it's Moyer, Varva, Westover, Brown-Nutley, Lintucanto. And just in there as well, Stefan Planchamp, who's worked his way up 3 places. Lintucanto, who's made up 8 places off the start. Villa Gomez has made up quite a few. Kimber's just dropped back down to 16th again, which is where he started from. So I'm not sure what's happened to Mark Kimber, but this is definitely not looking like his weekend at the moment. He's got to work very hard in the heats to get himself up to a good position to score big points for the pre-final. But there's not a lot he can do about it right now. Nicolas Pico, fastest of all in the first sector. He is pumping hard, good lap times there. Moya and Vava still leading the queue for third position, trying to keep in touch with William Godefroid. I think we're going to get a new fastest lap of the race here, and it looks like it could come from Nicolas Pico. Rufus Hunt is now the fastest of all in the second sector. The young man from Rugby, still only 14 years of age, but a very tall 14, hence why he's now Senior X30 these days. This battle for third position, very strong. Moya and Vava, Westover and Brown Nutley, Lintercanto, Planchamp up the inside. That is a change for P5. That is Brown Nutley on the inside of Louis Westover. Westover looking to try and get him straight back again. But they need to stop this squabble because they've got the Evolution driver, Levi Lintercanto of Finland, right underneath them. So Lintercanto, who was particularly fast, if you remember, in Valencia a few months ago now, actually. Niels Kuhlen leading the way. Godefroid in second. Then Moya, Vava, Westover, Brown Nutley. Well, Brown Nutley now to fifth position now, I should say. There he is, the 202. There is Louis Westover. They're in sixth position, flying the flag for Essex. Doing a great job there. And down the short stretch. Milan Petelet, the Frenchman, is now the second fastest sector time. The fastest sector 2 time is what I should have said. So they're doing a cracking job. Good racing and good battling as they continue to squabble away. Kuhlen, Godefroid, Moya, Vava, Brown Nutley. Fastest lap of the whole race comes from Milan Petelet, who's there in 13th place, trying to shake off the attentions of Danny Bunshu, Rafael Villagomez and Mark Kimber, who are stuck there in 14th, 15th and 16th respectively. And there's a big lunge up the inside. That's a good overtaking move from the 300 of Milan Petelet. He gets a move there on Camille Pruteau. So moves past his countryman with a nice bit of driving there. But Niels Kuhlen, with 2 laps to go, looks like he's got this one in the bag. The Dutchman having a great start to his meeting then with a perfect drive at the moment. Godefroid is there in second place. But you never would have thought the drivers from the outside line of the first 2 rows of the grid would be the ones to move their way forward. Normally it's always the drivers on the inside line who get the best of it, but not this time. Across the line and into the final lap goes Niels Kuhlen with William Godefroid in second. Being caught by these 3, though. The Spaniards, Ruben Moya and Philip Vava, with some help from Jordan Brown Nutley, are starting to close up. And the 6th place battle getting very tight as Louis Westover has to resist Levi Lintercanto. And now Lintercanto is getting a little bit of a push signal there from the 8th place man. That is Stevan Planchamp battling away with Nicolas Pico. So they're all still squabbling away for position as they try to work their way forward. But it's Niels Kuhlen who has got this one done, the Dutchman, in absolutely fantastic fashion, continuing his great run in the 2018 season. He's had a bit of a topsy-turvy start to the weekend and was not particularly fast compared to some of the other drivers maybe in practice. But Niels Kuhlen has definitely got himself a great continuation to the weekend this time by. He comes out of the final turn and onto the main straight, and Niels Kuhlen has done a great job and taken the victory in fine style. Brilliant race from Niels Kuhlen. He really made as good an opportunity as he possibly could from everything. Competing in the Skia USA Nationals X30 Juniors in 2016, and he's been working very hard ever since. And Niels Kuhlen, a worthy winner there in front of William Godefroid and Ruben Moya, with Philip Vava, Jordan Brown Nutley, Louis Westover, Levi Lintercanto, Nicolas Pico, Stevan Planchamp and Sebastien Degrand in the top 10. But the Dutchman, Niels Kuhlen, has worked very hard indeed there. Terrific racing from him, and he gets a worthy victory. Just outside the top 10, we have Milan Petelet and Masatora Wada, Camille Pruteau and Danny Budshu, Rafael Villagomez and Mark Kimber. Then it is Jana Guvarts, Manuel Galafrotone, Rufus Hunt, Rashid Ghanem, Harry Barlow, Thanapong Pangsatumnu, Leonardo Panayotu. And then the retirements from the race, we had Simon Henrard, Thomas Fleming, Anthony Moonen, Tony Harainen and Romain Leroux, with an on-start for Max Pilker, the pole. Really exciting battles then in the Senior X30, qualifying heat A to E. And we had some truly magnificent scraps between the drivers there in position. Really exciting stuff and great racing here at Mariembourg. What a brilliant, brilliant run it's been so far. race day live on Downforce UK. Brought to you by Clapham North MOT, Motorsport Days Live, Stopwatch Hospitality, and Trade Price Cars. There is just one more race to go before our lunch break, and that is going to be the Senior X30's next heat, which is Heat A to E for these qualifying groups. Oh, sorry, we've just had A to E. My apologies. It's Heat A. It's Heat B to C, is what I meant to say. So that is what's going to be next up in the mix, and we're going to see some really interesting battles there with Eli Goldstein and Joe Turney together on the front row of the grid. And let's not forget, these guys were level in qualifying to the 1,000th of a second. Just like in the Super Shifters, these two guys were dead level for sector times, pretty nearly. But in terms of the total of the lap, down to the 1,000th of a second, they were absolutely level pegging. Really exciting racing there, and great to see them battling in qualifying. They're going to do so again in the race itself for the Senior X30 second heat for each of these groups. It's Eli Goldstein and Joe Turney on the front row of the grid, from Joey Van Splunteren and Vincent Marceau, Siem Liedmar and Angus Moulsdale, Harry Platten and Rens van Pelt, and then we have Xavier Hansheim and Isaac Valtonen, Sylvester Alexievas and Felix Varga, Noah Ruvers, Thomas Imborg, Rivaldo van der Westerleken, Ross Hayes, Carlos Saval-Martin, Kevin Stehauer of Holland, Morgan Porter, Eduardo Cosseteng, Tom Nielsen, Nicolas Beart, Jan-Philippe Springob, Liam Hezemans, Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz, Evan Bachera, Jack Tomlin, Gustav Brandon, and that is all she wrote, because unfortunately we have not had a single start yet from Fabio Chieltica, who was entered for the weekend, but I don't think he has shown his face thus far. So what can we expect from this one? Well, Eli Goldstein and Joe Turney have been very, very closely matched on pace. You only need to look at their qualifying session to note the fact that they were separated by 1,000th of a second. Not even, in fact, they were dead level to the 1,000th of a second. So those two are obviously going to be very closely matched. A lot of the local talent say if Eli Goldstein gets things his own way this weekend, he will march away with this one. So it's up to the likes of Joe Turney and the couple of drivers behind, particularly maybe Joey Van Splunteren, who a lot of people have recommended could be the winner this time. He knows this circuit very well, having been a regular racer in the Benelux Championships. He knows it particularly well. Vincent Marceau on that second row of the grid should be a strong contender as well. Siem Liedmar in that third row of the grid, Angus Moulsdale, then Harry Platten and Rens van Pelt, all of whom are going to be hard drivers to beat. I'm very impressed in particular with Harry Platten, who's really stepped up to the plate this weekend in Senior X30. The Brit has really shown a resurgence of form, and he's got plenty of confidence coming into this one as well. So I have a feeling he's going to be a particularly strong contender for this weekend. There's a lot of great racing to come from these drivers in this class, but of course there are only 28 places that are guaranteed in the pre-final and final for tomorrow. Basically, you have to race your heart out and get yourself into that top 28. If you fail to do that, then you will basically be then put into the next race, which is the repechage, and that is for drivers placed from 29th through to 62nd, and then anybody who was 63rd or below, and in a field of 70 drivers, that's only going to be 8 of them, they will basically compete for the Comet Cup, which is for the drivers who have not quite been able to make it through to the last hurrah. And it is going to be very tough to get into that mix of drivers, and all of them will want to come away from this weekend with a victory of some kind. They will all want to improve upon their personal bests. The racing is going to be fast, furious and frenetic, and certainly from the local contingent, Eli Goldstein there in the Belgian colours of his overalls will want to have the race weekend from heaven. He's had a tough start to the weekend so far, but from the front of the grid every single time, he's put himself at the best position he can possibly be in to get the job done. So there's a lot of work that he will do, and he will be one of the drivers to beat here without any shadow of doubt. 11 laps on the clock. The time is going to tick down, and we are going to go racing once again here at Mariembourg. Now, slow starts for both Goldstein and Turney to leave the pits. I hope that's not a bad omen. Goldstein and Turney from the front of the grid. Then it's Van Splunteren and Marceau, Liedmar and Moulsdale, Platten and Van Pelt, Hansheim and Valtonen, Alexievas and Varga, Ruvers and Imborg, Van der Westerleken and Hayes, Saval-Martin and Stehauer, Porter, Cosseteng, Nielsen, Beart, Springob, Hezemans, Hernandez Ruiz, Bechera, Tomlin and Brandon. 28 karts in this one. Celtica at the bottom of your list there, unfortunately, is a non-starter this weekend. Initially entered, but no longer competing in the meeting. And this is going to be a very fascinating race to observe, because we've already seen Goldstein and Turney putting in some great performances in their first heats. Can they make it another great performance and go for the victory? Hello to everybody watching along on the Telemundi Media live stream. Great to have you with us. And we're going to be doing this all the way through the weekend, of course. We have this afternoon a further 14 races after our lunch break before 11 races tomorrow, which will crown the winners of our second round of the IAME X30 European Series Championship. The second formation lap this, so we're not racing yet. They will come up to the tram lines at the end of this lap and put themselves in a strong position to go for the victory. And it is going to be an interesting tussle, because these guys will be absolutely on it from the start. Formation signalled there from race officials, and they have to get into formation quite a long time from the main straight. That's in between turns 4 and 5. So basically they have to put themselves into formation fairly quickly into the lap. They'll start to stagger in the tram lines positions a little further up. But interestingly, Eli Goldstein has taken quite a long time to slow the field down. And I wonder if there's going to be enough time to get them all into position, because Eli Goldstein using the psychological upper hand here to try and keep everybody back. But he's rather hoping that everybody can now catch up to him and get themselves in position. It's going to be a bit of a hectic start as all of the drivers try to get themselves into position. And I wonder if this is actually going to end up being a false start. Eli Goldstein is going quite quickly here, so they're having to hold up a long way. Goldstein wants to get the race underway. Is he going to get a clean start this time? Yes, he is. Away we go, and it's a good start from Van Splinteren. He's going to try and go round the outside. Round the outside for the lead goes Joe Turney. Absolutely spectacular from Turney. Round the outside of Goldstein. Goldstein's going to get mugged here on the inside. Van Splinteren's gone through in a second place, and that looks like the Ike's Racing Team cart has gone through as well. That is Siem Liedmar. He's gone through, and there's 5 wide at the final turn as one of the HTP carts has gone off. That is Jan-Philipp Springhob, the reigning German X30 Junior champion. Well, what an amazing battle in the first lap of this race already. And Joe Turney, round the outside, has got into the lead. Second place now is Joey Van Splinteren. Third is Liedmar. Fourth is Goldstein. So from the inside line, the Belgian, clearly he must have had some kind of difficulty there, because he knew that he needed to get as fast a start as possible and was trying to rush the start a little bit. I wonder if that's going to turn into something pretty nasty, but I hope not. Here they come, over the line once again. Joe Turney's got away. Van Splinteren second, Liedmar third, Goldstein fourth. Then it's Mulsdale, Marsaru, Van Pelt, Varga, Ruvers, Valtonen, Platten, Hansheim, Alexievas and Imborg. Still battles in at turn 2, and there's a little bit of jostling for position. That's one of the unique racing carts in there. I think that's Sylvester Alexievas trying to move up a position or two as he gets into the battle there with the 289 cart as they battle away. Alexievas trying to come through on the Irishman Ross Hayes for Pierce Sexton Racing as they squabble away there in turns 3 and 4. But a really interesting battle for this second heat for the Senior X30 drivers. And out in front, it is Joe Turney, keeping the power and the pace round the outside. I thought there were far too many marbles on that outside line to make the lead come to him, but clearly he was able to squeeze Eli Goldstein just a little to that inside line and keep the pace on. And look at him go. Joe Turney in fighting form. He won the earlier heat, don't forget, in front of his teammate Clayton Ravenscroft. Now Liedmar dives at the inside of Van Splinteren for second, and Goldstein's going to get through as well into third position. And there's going to be 2 more going for it, and Van Splinteren is nudged there down at the back. Van Splinteren given a little bit of a nerf there, and 2 more drivers have made up places. That was Angus Mulsdale, I think, trying to come through. No, it was not. My apologies. That was Rens Van Pelt getting a little bit hungry and losing the places he's just gained. So a little bit feisty, a little bit too feisty, it turns out. There is Siem Liedmar in second place with Eli Goldstein in third as they come off the middle sector. Goldstein really starting to hamper up Siem Liedmar. But if they keep battling away for positions, Joe Turney's going to be uncatchable. We're only on lap 3, and he's already got nearly a second on the rest of the field. Fastest of all in the first sector is Nicolas Beart in 20th. Fastest of all in the second sector is Carlos Saval-Martin in 17th place at the moment. Over the line. Here comes Goldstein, lining up Liedmar. Textbook. No problem at all in the second place. Liedmar in third. Great racing from them as they continue to battle away. Now they need to work together to close after Joe Turney. It's Turney from Goldstein, Liedmar, Van Splinteren, Marceau, Van Pelt, Mulsdale, Varga, Ruvers, Valtonen and Harry Platten. Then it's Alexei Evers from Xavier Hansheim. And then it's Hayes, Seville Martin, Imburg, Porter, Van der Westerlaken, Nellison, Bayard, Hernandez Ruiz, Stahauer, Hezemans, Brandon, Bachera, Springob, Tomalin, Kossetang. And then further back, that is all she wrote, basically. So through they come once more. Good battles in the front end, but it's for second position, not for the lead, because Joe Turney has already got a second on the rest of these guys and is just continuing to up tempo. So he is there with the all-new OTK fairing on the Nassau panel there as he comes through, and it's certainly channeling the air quite well for the moment as he comes through that first corner with a second's advantage cut down to 0.7 of a second now on Eli Goldstein. Fastest of all in the third sector was Harry Platten, the Brit, for BMR BTCC team. But fastest of all, well, that is now currently the man in 12th position, Sylvester Alexeyevas. The ideal fastest lap from the race is 56.915, and the fastest lap of the race is from Alexeyevas, 57.145. So there is time to move further forward. But at the moment, it's Joe Turney on lap 5 of 11 in this 15-kilometre race. Great racing it is, too, as Eli Goldstein runs in second position on home turf. Look, he's actually dropped Siem Liedmar. He's dropped off this train, so he's pulling away. And Joey Van Splinteren is now going to get into the battle for third position here with Siem Liedmar, and he'll think he knows that he's got to get past him, otherwise any chances of winning are going to dissipate. And fifth position in there as well, the Frenchman Vincent Marceau. Marceau's going to go on the inside and make his lunge on Van Splinteren. Van Splinteren tries to hold it round the outside, but loses the place inevitably to Marceau. Sixth place, that is Rens van Pelt. Then it's Felix Varga, who's doing a great job on home soil, the Belgian local. Then it is Noah Ruvers from Angus Mulsdale and Harry Platten. A few more moves through the field as Nicolas Bayard has made up 6 places at this stage. So too has the Swede Gustav Brandin from the back row of the grid. He's worked his way forward. But Joe Turney, no, all of a sudden only has half a second on Eli Gold. So the dominant victory is not going to happen for Joe Turney. He's going to have to work for it. We're on lap 6, the halfway lap. And then with 5 laps to go, it's going to be Eli Goldstein versus Joe Turney in the hope that the likes of Siem Liedmar and Joey Van Splinteren don't get a look in. But across the line, Joe Turney knows that Goldstein's going to be strong. He knows he's going to be hungry. Goldstein, I think the youngest man in this field, age 14 in Senior X30, making the jump this year. And this is going to be an interesting battle for the Belgian. Knowing the circuit very well indeed, of course. We've seen him go for some very interesting overtaking moves in the past, Eli Goldstein. And he certainly has all of the necessary confidence and not physical aggression, but certainly mental agility to run at the front of the field. And now here he is battling away with Joe Turney for the lead of the race in Mariembourg. Through the S's they come. No major problems. Eli Goldstein trying to drop Siem Liedmar for third position and just leave them behind. And with 4 laps to go at the end of this one, Goldstein is looking very comfortable. He's looking after the tyres at the moment. Sat behind Joe Turney. He doesn't want to push them too hard. He needs to stay with Joe Turney, but he doesn't want to be too hungry and making the move too soon. He has gone right with him. Liedmar and the 4th place man in the equation, Vincent Marceau, have really dropped off the back of them now. And in 5th position, of course, is Rens van Pelt. Joey Van Splinteren are dropping all the way down to 7th in the end, so even Felix Varga's gone through. Into 3rd goes Vincent Marceau. Marceau in a 3rd place there. Good move from the Frenchman, but Rens van Pelt is closing up, and he will want to try and come through. Rens van Pelt trying to shadow the performance of his colleague over there, Rens van Pelt, his countryman, as they continue to charge forward. But this will be very interesting for these guys as they continue to battle away. Eli Goldstein on the VDK kart as he continues to push his way further forward. The VDK run Cosmic, I should say. But he's got an awful lot of pressure from the guys in there behind him, but he's trying his best to turn up the dial and go after the KR Sport Racer, the Cosmic Racing Factory team. Joe Turney in 3rd position at the moment. Up to 4th has come Rens van Pelt. He's made the move on Siem Liedmar behind Vincent Marceau. And Felix Varga in 6th position is now trying to make his way through. Another one of the locals here in Mariembourg. He makes the dive up the inside of Liedmar. That'll do nicely. And that's going to bring Joey van Splunteren into the battle as well. But with 3 laps to go, we are seriously running out of kilometres in this race to run. And Eli Goldstein knows all about it. He's on the back of Joe Turney. He doesn't need to push too hard right now. Fastest lap of the race. The man who's just come away from having taken victory in the British National Championships in Scotland 2 weeks ago at Lark Hall. Morgan Porter, fastest lap of the circuit at the moment. Down the drop once more. And this is going to be an interesting, spicy battle between these two. We're going into the final 2 laps. One with the new Nassau panel, one without. Eli Goldstein with more knowledge of this circuit. Here he goes up the inside, and Goldstein takes the lead. He actually tries to squeeze Joe Turney out to the marbles to compromise him on the way through. Now Joe Turney is the chaser rather than the chased, and this is going to be a tough battle. If they start to get into the wards, Vincent Marceau in 3rd position could snatch it from both of them. Joe Turney's quick on the back of Eli Goldstein. Goldstein's not going to be allowed to get away as Joe Turney continues to push, continues to pressurise, and he is going to turn up the dial here, especially with the 3rd place battle of Vincent Marceau, Rens van Pelt, Felix Varga, Sim Liedmar and Joey van Splunteren not far behind now. They're all within touching distance, so they've just got to keep pushing on this last lap. They don't want to scrap too much, but Joe Turney will know that Eli Goldstein is determined to win on home soil, and in fact, not only has he got through Eli Goldstein, but he is starting to get away. He knows how to channel the ultimate energy of this lap. 1 lap to go, and Eli Goldstein is looking good for his victory that he so wanted here in Mariembourg. He wanted a good performance, he wanted a good display, and I think he's going to get it this time. But Goldstein in front of Joe Turney. 3rd, Vincent Marceau from Rens van Pelt. Oh, a bit of a moment there for Marceau as he comes off the turn. And Felix Varga's going to get through on the inside of both of them. Rens van Pelt's going to get the undercut. And Van Pelt gets into 3rd. Great driving from Rens van Pelt. Up into 3rd position there behind the leaders. That was some spectacular bit of manoeuvring from Rens van Pelt. Clearly, he knew which parts of the circuit were going to give him that grip and which were not. And the others were just handling themselves as best as they possibly could. But Eli Goldstein, the 14-year-old, is going to come through to get his victory in Senior X30 here on home soil and get his weekend right off to a kickstart. Eli Goldstein gets the checkered flag and wins here in Mariembourg. 2nd for Joe Turney, 3rd for Rens van Pelt in spectacular fashion on the last lap. Felix Varga makes it 3 Belgians in the top 4 from Vincent Marceau, Joey van Splunteren, Sim Liedmar, Harry Platten in the top 10 from Sylvester Alexievas and Noah Roovers, making it 4 Belgians out of 10 in the top 10. Isaac Valton in 11th place for Sweden. Then Angus Mulsdale, the great British driver, is there in 12th place. Then it is Carlos Saval-Martin, Thomas Imborg, Xavier Hansen, Morgan Porter, Nicolas Bayard, Kevin Stehauer, Rivaldo van der Westerlaken, and Juan Carlos Hernandez Ruiz rounding out the top 20. Then it is Tom Nellison, Jan-Philipp Springob, Eduardo Cossetang, Evan Bachera, Gustav Brandin, Ross Hayes, and Jack Tomelin, with only Liam Hesemans failing to finish the race. Well, pretty exciting stuff then, and that's our pause for proceedings as well. But Eli Goldstein takes a very important victory in terms of the way things are currently spread out. And that's going to give us some really interesting talking points for the rest of the day. We hope you've enjoyed the action thus far from the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway here in Belgium. There's some great races to come, of course. 33 races in total over the entire course of the weekend. That was the first 8. We have now got a further 14 to go today before we get into the heat of the action for pre-finals and finals tomorrow across all of the classes in X30 Mini, Junior, Senior and Super Shifter. We'll be back on air once again on the Downforce UK stream and on Telemundi Media in time for the next race of the day, which is at 15:20 local time. So we will probably be back on air around about 3 o'clock local time here in Belgium. So stick around, go grab yourself something to eat or drink, and we'll be back here in the beautiful Belgian sunshine here at the Karting de Fagnes International Raceway in Mariembourg. We'll be back soon.